Welcome to 3rd Saudi Forum for 4IR 2025. Please stay tuned. The event will start shortly.
Good morning, Excellencies and distinguished guests, and welcome back to the third Saudi Forum for the Fourth Industrial Revolution 2025. Yesterday's discussions explored how converging technologies are transforming industries, economies, and societies, from quantum and AI to the future of education and innovation. To open the second day and share key takeaways from yesterday's session, please join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Waleed Joharji. He's the General Manager for Projects and Initiatives at the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Saudi Arabia. Please give him a round of applause. Dr. Waleed.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and a very good morning to you all. It is my honor to welcome you back to Day 2 of the third Saudi Forum for the Fourth Industrial Revolution 2025. Yesterday, we set the stage for a global dialogue on how technology is converging across borders, sectors, and disciplines, and in the process, reshaping industry and influencing broader economic systems. Day 1 began with a critical question: how do we govern convergence? We heard how, up until recently, innovation moved along parallel highways: artificial intelligence, bioeconomy, quantum, space, each occupying its own space, and each advancing in isolation from one another. Today, these highways are increasingly becoming interconnected, forming a multi-layered ecosystem of convergence, where value is created not within a single discipline, but at the intersection between them. This is what is referred to as technological convergence, the fusion of technologies that compound one another's capabilities. But we also heard how true transformation also requires systemic convergence, the alignment of policy, education, data governance, and industrial strategy in a way that allows for innovation to scale responsibly and inclusively. We also heard how small and medium-sized enterprises form the connective tissue of this convergence. Their agility, their diversity, and their proximity to real-world challenges make them natural test beds for integrating technologies such as artificial intelligence, biotechnology, quantum, and digital manufacturing. Empowering these SMEs through open innovation platforms, shared infrastructure, and targeted financing ensures that convergence is not concentrated within a few firms, but diffused across an ecosystem that learns, scales, and innovates collectively. Lastly, we also heard that at the heart of convergence lies human capital, the researchers, the engineers, the entrepreneurs whose creativity fuels every frontier. Technology may interconnect machines, but it's people who interconnect ideas. Building this human layer through education, reskilling, and international collaboration determines whether convergence becomes a driver of equitable progress. Across these conversations, one message stood out clear. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is not defined by any single technology, but by the strength of the systems that we build around them. Yesterday, we explored the architecture of convergence, the systems, the coordination, the ideas that make it possible. Today, we explore that architecture in action. So let us carry forward the energy and insights of Day 1 into today's discussions, reminding ourselves that progress is built not by technology alone, but by the people who give it purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Waleed, for that insightful recap and for setting the stage for another day forward-looking at dialogue and collaboration. As we begin Day 2 of the third Saudi Forum, let's take a moment to reflect on how technology and humanity are converging to shape a new era. With this short film, we set the stage for today's conversation.
In the intelligent age, data thinks, systems adapt, and technology serves life. The future is no longer just imagined, it's being built here and now. At the third Saudi Forum for 4IR, ideas will cross boundaries, from science to society, from technology to sustainability. Global and local voices have united to understand innovation, policies that protect, and technologies that ignite progress. At this edition of the Forum, we explore AI and deep tech, building economies, human-centered and ready for tomorrow. Automation evolving, digital twins, and if factories of the future will be guided by purpose. Beyond digital are quantum realms and bioeconomies, new frontiers of change. Through intelligent systems and education, we seek to reskill and bridge divides. As we cross digital frontiers, will we be guided by ethics and equity? Will we awaken to a cleaner morning, powered by natural resources and sustainable frontier tech? From Riyadh to the world, the Forum connects local voices with global insights, stewarding a fourth industrial revolution rooted in resilience and enduring through time.
We now proceed with a special announcement marking the launch of PeerLink platform, an initiative from the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Saudi Arabia, which aims to advance small and medium enterprises, collaboration and capability building across Saudi Arabia's industrial ecosystem. Without further ado, to launch the program, please join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Basma Al-Bhayran, the Managing Director for the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Saudi Arabia.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning, Your Excellencies, esteemed guests, and participants. So it's an honor and a great pleasure to welcome you all on this special occasion to launch PeerLink, which is a global initiative that reflects the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's continued commitment to advancing the digital transformation of its industrial sector. Over the past few years, Saudi Arabia has made remarkable progress in enabling small and medium enterprises, which today represent globally about 90% of all private sector establishments and contribute significantly to job creation and economic diversification. As part of these national efforts, the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Saudi Arabia, in collaboration with the World Economic Forum, is proud to introduce PeerLink, which is a global digital platform designed to connect, empower, and inspire SMEs on their Industry 4.0 journey. PeerLink provides a collaborative space for benchmarking, capability building, and knowledge exchange, thus enabling SMEs to access practical tools, share best practices, and engage with peers, experts, and technology partners from around the world. This initiative underscores the Kingdom's leadership in shaping global SME digital transformation and its alignment with Vision 2030, building an innovation-driven and digitally capable industrial ecosystem. In parallel with this launch, a co-branded publication with the World Economic Forum titled From Barriers to Breakthroughs, How Peer-to-Peer Learning Can Help SMEs Embrace Digital Transformation was recently published on October 27th, highlighting the insights and vision behind the creation of PeerLink. To mark this important milestone, it is my honor and privilege to invite His Excellency Bandar Al-Khrayef, Minister of Industry and Mineral Resources, and His Excellency Dr. Munir Al-Dasuki, President of King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology and Chairman of the Board for the Center of Fourth Industrial Revolution, Saudi Arabia, and Jeremy Jurgens, the Managing Director for the Centers of Cybersecurity and the Center for Frontier Technology and Innovation, to officially launch PeerLink.
Thank you and congratulations all on the PeerLink launch and the agenda post that supports small and medium enterprises, innovation, and digital transformation. For our next session, Industrial Leadership in the Era of Convergence, we're honored to welcome His Excellency Bandar Al-Khrayef, the Minister of Industry and Mineral Resources of Saudi Arabia, back on stage. Please give him a round of applause. Moderating this session is also Dr. Basma Al-Bhayran, Managing Director of the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Saudi Arabia. Please join me in welcoming them both to the stage.
Assalamu alaikum, Malik. I'd like to first thank His Excellency Bandar Al-Khrayef, Minister of Industry and Mineral Resources, for joining us this morning for this fireside chat. So, Your Excellency, global competitiveness is being redefined by how effectively nations integrate technology, sustainability, and industrial innovation. And this convergence is key to the Kingdom's goal of achieving a resilient and diversified economy. So our conversation this morning is going to focus on exploring how the Kingdom is building the industries of the future by linking our traditional resource strength with advanced technological capabilities, all anchored in the ambition of Vision 2030. And under Vision 2030, the Kingdom's industrial base has undergone one of the fastest transformations globally, from policy reform and infrastructure investment to localization and export growth. And the shift is no longer about catching up. It's really about shaping the industries of the future. Non-oil exports, we know, have jumped to 30% in July to almost $9 billion, which is equivalent to 33.7 billion Saudi riyals. And we also know that 122 factories started production in May alone of this year. And investments in those factories amounted to about almost $246 million. So, Your Excellency, from your vantage point, could you perhaps share with us what you see as the key achievements so far, and which areas are now the priority as we move from transformation to leadership?
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. صبحكم الله بالخير جميعا. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for this great opportunity and thank you, Dr. Basma. It's great to be again here. I would like to start by acknowledging the fact that our industrial strategy since the beginning was betting on technology and how technology will be an important enabler of accelerating our industrial growth. We are doing this in two verticals. One is trying to upgrade the existing capabilities, and that's why we have launched the Future Factories program, which aims to convert 4,000 factories to adopt new technologies, where the ministry is actively working with a platform of suppliers and solution providers to help existing plants and factories to engage and looking at the right solutions that is suitable for them to upgrade their business model, incorporate AI, artificial, also robotics, 3D printing, and automation, and so on. And this is key to ensure that the whole ecosystem is very well in terms of adaptation. On the other side, we are looking at new capabilities. How can we ensure that while we are growing our industrial base, the new capabilities, the new investments are from the beginning designed to be future, adapting future technologies and ready to connect with the rest of the capabilities. So these are the two tracks that we are doing with investors. But there is a huge work that is being done on the government level from regulation, because it's important to have the right regulation to attract the right investments, attract the right innovation, and also ensure that while we are adopting these technologies, we are keeping the industry safe through cybersecurity, also regulation. The second is infrastructure. Without modern infrastructure that connects and has the ability to enable the sector for adopting new technologies, it will be very hard for the private sector to do this alone. So we are investing a lot in physical, digital infrastructure to ensure that the capabilities are the basic, and not only the basic, but also the advanced infrastructure are there. Third, which I think is essential and very important, is human capital development. How can we ensure that while we are investing in these capabilities, we have the right manpower, we have the right people who will be able to get the best out of these investments in technologies. And so the role of the government continues to be a supporter to ensure that we are enabling the sector. Also, things like smart cities and how smart cities can also reduce the cost, increase productivity, make our industrial cities more or less like a plug-and-play type of industrial cities. We are progressing very well in this area, and I think just to give an example, we have the target is 4,000. We have already almost are reaching our target. We exceeded 3,900 something factories that went through the process of SERI assessment and ready for the different stages of implementation.
So thank you, Your Excellency. You spoke about a very holistic ecosystem approach from regulatory reforms to ensuring that we also have the right guardrails in place, to also ensuring that the government is investing heavily in infrastructure, and most importantly, talent development and preparing, having that foresight approach. And these are all fundamental when we talk about competitiveness. But we also know that globally, competitiveness is no longer measured by output alone, but by how intelligently industries connect data, machines, and people through technologies such as AI, automation, and digital twins. And Saudi Arabia is already setting the pace, supported by 99% internet penetration, a leadership in 5G, and also world-class mobile speeds. So I'd like to ask you now, Your Excellency, if you could share with us, how is the ministry enabling Saudi industries to adopt these technologies at scale, and what partnerships or policies have proven to be the most effective?
That's a great question, and I would like to start by saying today, in today's world, there is no shortage of technologies. I think technologies are very widely available. It's there, it's been proven. What is going to be differentiating different nations is how they can choose the right solutions and technology and use them in the best way, and use them in the sectors that are going to yield the most. And today in Saudi Arabia, this is very clear to us. Our diversification strategy, led by our Vision 2030, is very clear about priority sectors where industry, mining, healthcare, tourism, logistics, where the more we invest in technology and the right technology and the combination of technologies, this is really, I think, the art that we are, or the challenge that we are facing, is how to be able to combine different technologies to achieve what we need. So back to the, maybe focusing on the question, how are we helping? First of all, we need to be mindful also that standardization is key. It's very important for these technologies to connect so that we can maximize the return on, of the economy as a whole, and not just look at every production facility as an isolated entity, but rather look at the overall sector and relative sectors. And for example, today we cannot imagine any advancement or competitiveness in industry or mining without looking at energy efficiency and energy cost and energy mix. We cannot imagine looking at improving our productivity in manufacturing or mining without having a strong, robust logistic capabilities. How can we connect that? We also are very, very keen as a country to improve and increase the local content. How can we ensure that within the sector itself, we are actually maximizing the return of the sector from upstream to midstream to downstream and to final products? So technology will definitely allow us to do so. And I will just give an example, even in government work, how the technology that we are today adopting is increasing our efficiency. When I was in Davos of 23, the main, I would say, the main discussion was around generative AI and how its implementation, different implementations. And when I came back, I gave a task to all of the entities that I chair. Give me solutions, give me ideas of how can we capitalize on generative AI to improve our operation. I will just give one example, the Local Content Authority. The amount of work they are doing to analyze different tenders and different components, or how can we maximize the local content in a tender. Let's say we are talking about a huge tender for an airport or a railway. It is a very complex. Without the right tools, it took them 2 to 3 months. When they implemented generative AI, now they can do it in less than 2 hours. So this is the kind of environment that we are living today. We are mindful of the technology, but we are also very selective to ensure that it's not just, being pride about buying technology or investing in technology. What we are interested in, what is the impact it can bring to our work? So if it can do something like this in a government entity, we can imagine how different technologies will be doing in private sector. And again, in the past, I used to be in the private sector, and I said this many times, in the past, production units looked at efficiency and automation in their borderline. Today is no longer the case. You need to ensure how you can connect with everybody else to be maximizing the return on the technology. And Saudi Arabia is very privileged because, first of all, our manufacturing capabilities, most of them are hosted in industrial cities, which create a good clustering and a good scale. Secondly, our national companies are very open to cooperate with solution providers, with innovation, with new ideas of how to collaborate. And third, again, the policies that we have of the integration, things like local content policy, is actually pushing everybody to work with each other to ensure the maximizing the ability of the country to utilize the technology in the best way possible.
So we can't speak about technology without talking about sustainability. And we know that sustainability has moved away from being a compliance goal to really a core driver of industrial advantage. And globally, access to markets and capital is now shaped by how efficiently industries integrate circular practices and low carbon materials. And Saudi Arabia is moving decisively in this direction, targeting 130 gigawatts renewables with 8 to 22 gigawatts near-term storage. And the NEOM green hydrogen plant is the world's largest. And so these investments really signal a clear shift from obligation to opportunity. But how is Saudi Arabia embedding circularity, green materials, and energy efficiency into its industrial and mining ecosystems?
I think you said it right. I mean, today we can't imagine any investor putting significant amount of money, which is normally needed for any mining operation or manufacturing operation or processing of metals, without having the comfort that this investment will tap into some kind of energy mix that is competitive, that allows them to be competitive. But I would like to look at sustainability for us in Saudi in a much broader way, because there are areas where we believe that sustainability is more critical for us than other countries. So take water, for example. Mining is a sector where it requires usage of water, and we cannot imagine that with a country like Saudi, with the shortage of water, how can we ensure that while we are building our mining sector and industry as a whole, we are also mindful of how we can do it with the least water consumption. So we have a great work in our ministry with global players to ensure that we don't wait for technologies to be developed abroad, because we are one of the few countries that have this, the highest criticality of water. With regard to green, Our metal strategy is built on ensuring that all of the capabilities that we build today actually is ready to move to green. So with the energy mix move that we have in the country, and with the capabilities like the hydrogen plant that is being built as we speak in NEOM, actually we are discussing as a chairman of Royal Commission of Jebel Yanbu, there is actually another a very interesting also a huge project of green hydrogen that is being now considered to be built in Yanbu also, that will be the largest also, exceeding the one in NEOM. So I think the country is serious about moving in that direction, and but I think Saudi is navigating this challenge in a very practical way, and I think now even industrial countries is realizing that the speed and the process that we are using in circularity, in the area of sustainability is the right approach.
And we also know that industrial transformation cannot happen or cannot succeed in isolation. And as value chains globalize and technologies converge, collaboration with global partners becomes a very key enabler of innovation, scale, and resilience. And the kingdom is increasingly becoming both, or as being seen as both a hub and a bridge for such cooperation or collaboration. So how is Saudi Arabia working with global partners and investors to accelerate innovation and value chain integration across industries like manufacturing, mining, and technology?
I mean, if you look at our history, Saudi Arabia, especially in manufacturing, has been built on collaboration with global players. We will continue to do that. I think the only difference today is that we have more ambition to do more inside our country. So, and that's across the board. What is interesting to see today, unlike in the past, the cooperation is normally done with large global players. Today, Saudi Arabia is attracting talent and innovation and entrepreneurs in a way that is unbelievable. And the reason for this is that these people understand that this country is willing to bet on the future rather than be comfortable with the legacy. The other thing I always say, entrepreneurs and new ideas, innovations need two things. They need money, and they need a place to test their ideas. They need to prove concepts, and they need to do it with real cases that can be scaled up and can be endorsed by large companies or credible users. So if you were an entrepreneur anywhere globally today, have a solution for mining, you will have access to Ma'aden, who will be happy to work out some kind of arrangement to test, and if that succeeds, imagine what will be the result. And that's the kind of ecosystem that we have created actually, and it's not one entity. It's not Ministry of Industry or Ministry of Education, or it's the collective culture of our that we are bringing as part of our Vision 2030. It's very inviting to new ideas, and of course, not only to people from abroad, but from Saudi. But also, we are continuing to attract global players, and when we see global players, even the ones who are here, the people who've been here for 40 years, like Procter & Gamble or Unilever or Nestle or others, we say, look, we want you to invest in Saudi, but we want you to invest for your next products, your future products. We want innovation to come to the country. We don't want just machinery. And the idea is not to bring the innovation only, but we believe that, with the work you are doing with KAXT, with the RDI ecosystem, I'm very confident that we will be able to export innovation and new ideas. And we can see some of it even now today. Actually, a couple of months ago, I was in the industrial city in Khubar, visiting PepsiCo they had a new expansion. And they were telling me their next door, there was someone in the same neighborhood, a 3D printing, additive manufacturing of spare parts, who they discovered, who did a great job for them to build parts for their equipment. And now they linked this small operation in Saudi, run by a few Saudis, to their operations globally. One of them that they actually sold was the South African operation. So this is the kind of atmosphere and ecosystem we are creating. And the presence of these companies will allow, if we have the right structure, if we have the right enablement to our young people, it will definitely allow them to be global players, as we have in our human capital program, which aims to produce global citizens.
So collaboration is the name of the game. And I think the Saudi Arabia and the Ministry of Industry has demonstrated remarkable work, and we have success stories that we've also been able to share with the rest of the world. You touched upon, Your Excellency, earlier. We talked a little bit about convergence, and this year's forum focuses on converging frontiers. And as global industries converge around AI, sustainability, and advanced manufacturing, we also know that countries are redefining competitiveness, not just by scale, but how fast they can integrate and adapt. And Saudi Arabia is positioning itself at the heart of this transformation through Vision 2030. From your perspective, Your Excellency, how is this convergence reshaping the global industrial landscape, and what opportunities does it create for Saudi Arabia?
It is, it has a huge impact on the global scene. The amount of change we have seen globally in the last 10 years is tremendous. The sequence of activities that have happened just in the last few years, from the pandemic to the war in Russia to the war of the global trade, is evidence that there are changes. People are feeling pain. The countries are starting to think they are left out. And I think this is creating a bit of chaos, but at the same time, great opportunities for countries like Saudi, who are geared, who are ready to move, to shape up. And it takes effort by collective government. It's not easy. And we see this. I've been in the government now 6 years, and I remember in the first years, everybody is looking at us and, just wondering. I can see behind their eyes that they are thinking, what is this guy saying? The first visit to Davos, everybody almost I met was questioning what we are doing. This is no longer the case. People understand, because now halfway towards our Vision 2030, there's a lot to talk about. There's a huge change. There is actual results on the ground. We no longer are talking. And so back to the question, it's going to impact, it is actually impacting global investments, behaviors of investments, the way we look at manufacturing, for example, the old way of concentration is no longer accepted anymore. And this creates a great opportunity for a country like Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia sits in a very, very interesting location where we can access everywhere. And we can actually host and be home of many capabilities. Everything built on true fundamentals and not, artificial or any kind of support. No, but there is huge fundamentals. It's a country where, from an investor's perspective, very stable. And by the way, Saudi Arabia, for example, when we started in mining, we were ranked by one of the ranking agencies about mining jurisdictions called Fraser, Canadian company. We were ranked 104. In their last edition, we are number 23. And we are number 1 jurisdiction in terms of stability, both political and regulatory. And this is key for an industry or for a sector like mining, where people invest for a long period of time. We are talking about 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So the stability we have as a government, as a country, the stability we have in our monetary and also our exchange rate, our real, the unique infrastructure that we have in ports, roads, railway, airports, connectivity in general, high-class really infrastructure, in the amount of capabilities from a financial point of view that is available for investors. And in terms of local market, we have a good local market. We have a very interesting regional market. If you add the GCC countries, and now we are seeing countries like Iraq improving, Syria is coming back, Yemen is coming back, Lebanon, the region is booming. So definitely Saudi Arabia is benefiting from all of this. But of course, we need to be mindful that it's not enough. We need also to shape up in regulation, in education of our people, skilling, training, reskilling, and also in, again, back to betting on technology, really investing seriously in technology, not just for the sake of technology, but for the sake of making sense of these technologies and making them yield the highest level of yield to prove to our people who trust in our country that they have chosen the right place to invest.
And in closing, Your Excellency, if we take a look 5 to 10 years from now, what does success look like for the industrial sector in Saudi Arabia? And what will define the kingdom's leadership in the global industrial economy of the future?
For me, success will look like great amount of integration between resources, manufacturing, and finished product. Success means that we continue to export more and more goods and services, compete globally. Success for me in manufacturing will mean we rely less and less on low labor cost, invest in our people. We want less people working in the plants, but more income for the people who do that, who work in these plants. And also, success will mean that we find solution for some of the pressing areas of concern for us, especially in our national security, such as pharmaceuticals or food security or water security or defense. So while we are also busy with the large scale, commodities, we need also to be mindful of the fact that even we should not miss in our radar small capabilities that will make us very competitive globally.
So you've laid out, Your Excellency, for us a very beautiful scene of present day, from ecosystem development to cross-government collaboration, to ensuring that we have the right platforms for startups and entrepreneurs to develop and thrive, to the various regulatory reforms that are also important, while at the same time making sure that we don't lose sight of sustainability and circular carbon economy and integrating all of that into the industrial sector as SMEs digitally transform. At the same time, we also talked about the importance of talent and what the kingdom is doing currently in talent, but also having that future foresight to make sure that we have a talent-ready workforce and that we're future-proofing our society. And you painted for us a very beautiful picture in the future. So I think we're ending off this conversation with Your Excellency with great hope and optimism for not only the industrial sector of the kingdom, but also for the kingdom overall. Please join me in giving His Excellency a round of applause. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Your Excellency and Dr. Basma, for this insightful discussion. Our upcoming sessions will be on the Sky Stack, where drones, satellites, and AI intersect. And we're pleased to highlight a publication for advanced air mobility titled Deployment Pathways for Advanced Air Mobility Lessons for Early Implementation in Saudi Arabia, developed jointly by the World Economic Forum and the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Saudi Arabia. This publication showcases how Saudi Arabia's early pilots in drones and advanced air mobility are being translated into scalable deployment pathways, supporting Vision 2030 goals of mobility, logistics, and industrial resilience, and positioning the kingdom as a global reference for next-generation air transport. If you'd like, please scan the barcode displayed on the screen to access and explore the full publication. And you may also access it through C4IR Saudi Arabia's website. We'll now take a brief 10-minute break and reconvene with the Quantum Advantage panel on the stage. As we continue today's program, please note the sessions will be taking place here in the main stage, as well as right behind us in the Red Sea and Al-Ula rooms. Full session details and timings are available on the forum website and application. We look forward to welcoming you back in 10 minutes. Welcome back. Now I'd like to introduce an exciting project from former WEF Global Future Council members, Rebecca Krothmer and Frika Hyman, who've taken up the initiative to democratize quantum technologies via a documentary series aimed at the global population. The goal is to convey the promise and excitement of quantum technologies without fueling hype or fear, and engaging not only scientists and technologists, but anyone who is interested in more equitable and sustainable future. We're honored that the first filming was done here in Riyadh on World Quantum Day. We'll now showcase a short teaser from that documentary.
We as human beings ought to be able to live longer and live with dignity. And this is a challenge that quantum computing will be able to address.
This is the edge of the world.
It's a new beginning. It's a bit like the quantum future.
If we think of the 19th century as a century where we got to grips with chemistry and physics, well, the 21st century is a century where we finally come to grips with biology.
Quantum science, ladies and gentlemen, is no longer confined to theory. It now fuels real-world innovation.
Technology is not good nor bad, but neither is it neutral. We need quantum to democratize access to better life for the global population.
As countries increase their quantum investments, how can global collaboration be maintained?
We recognize that no single country can advance this field alone.
You don't need to be a PhD, you don't need to be a physics major.
Quantum computing, quantum sensing, quantum communication, and basically we believe this is the future and we have to prepare for it from now.
We made up first order logic, if this, then that, and we forget the middle. That's not life. Quantum computer computes the way that nature computes.
Our goal is to bring quantum out of the lab and into your living room, so you can be part of the conversation.
Moving on to our next session, the quantum advantage, trust, security, and global influence in the 4IR era. It will explore how quantum technologies are reshaping global trust, cybersecurity, and competitiveness, redefining the balance of technological power in the fourth industrial revolution. We're honored to welcome the distinguished speakers joining us in this conversation. Firstly, we have Ms. Arunima Sarkar, Head of Frontier Technologies at the World Economic Forum, Professor Rosario Fazio, the Head of Condensed Matter and Statistical Physics Section at the Abdus Salam International Center for Theoretical Physics. We also have Ms. Kelly Rickdale, the Senior Advisor for Sandbox IQ, Dr. Mohammed Flimban, the Assistant Professor and Director at King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals. Moderating this session, we have Mr. Mohammed Al-Saari, the Senior Consultant at Saudi Aramco and Chairman of Saudi Quantum Computing Association. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage with a round of applause.
Assalamu alaikum jami'an, and good morning everyone, and welcome to our today's session on the quantum advantage, trust, security and global influence as part of the fourth industrial revolution. It's my real pleasure to be with you today, along with our distinguished panel of global experts representing the science, policy, industry, and innovation. In fact, when we talk about the current digital transformation, for the past few decades, it has changed the way we live, the way we work, the way we communicate. And right now we are at the frontier of the quantum computing stage. And that one will bring challenges when it comes to the foundation of trust and security to the digital system that we have right now. So the quantum computing has potential when it comes to multiple advantages, be it in material science, in chemistry, in artificial intelligence, and others. Yet, it also poses profound questions when it comes to data security, geopolitical influence, sovereignty, and of course, quantum divide. And also, if we consider the cybersecurity, the communication cryptography, right now, the one that governs the critical infrastructure, critical communication of the current digital system that we have right now, upon the arrival of the quantum capabilities, this one could be disrupted. So the question is beyond just what the quantum can provide to us. It's really, are we prepared for it? And also very important, are we going to have a global collaboration, or we will have digital fragmentation and quantum divide? And also when it comes to the emerging economies like the one in Saudi Arabia, what role they can play in that future of having equitable and secure future of the quantum. These are the questions that we would like to discuss with our esteemed guest right now here, and I would like to start by first question, just to setting the stage. I'd like to start with Dr. Rosario. The question is about the quantum advantage. So could you define to the audience what's the quantum advantage and what transformative capabilities could the quantum technology unlock in the next decade?
Okay, so thank you. Does it work? Yeah. So first of all, I would like to thank the organization for the great opportunity. I'm really honored to be here. So quantum advantage. I would like to start with a citation of Bill Phillips. Bill Phillips is a Nobel Prize winner for laser cooling. He just said that when we think to quantum technologies, it is way more distant to the current technology if we compare the current one to Abacus. This just to give an idea what are its potentialities. You mentioned quantum advantage. What is it? Well, there are certain tasks where if data are processed, manipulated, stored using rules of quantum mechanics, can be executed in a way which is fundamentally more efficient in terms of resources, speed, and whatever, as compared to the classical one. And this applies, as you said, to several different fields where manipulation of data is important. Computation, communication, sensing, simulation. Where are we now? Well, people talk about this period, using an acronym which was coined by John Preskill, the NISQ area. So still we have, NISQ means noisy intermediate scale quantum devices. So where still we don't have fault tolerance, and we need to we need to cope with noisy, which will eventually alter our computational capabilities. And so error mitigation strategies become important. But there are very important results in several different directions where the transition to the new acronym, which I read a few weeks ago, it's FASC, which is fault-tolerant application scale quantum devices, where this become important. And then the various algorithms where the real potentialities of quantum information processing will be unleashed at their best. Of course, I mean, the stage is slightly different if we think to the different branches of quantum information processing. If we compare computing to information in sensing, we already have devices which are operating in communication. I think yesterday in one of the sessions it was mentioned this. Let's say if I see the various roadmaps that have been wrote so far, both in national or international strategies or by major companies, let's say in few years, 2030 or a little bit longer, say fault-tolerant computation is something which may be achieved. I would like to conclude my first answer to this, I mean, the answer to your question just by another citation by John von Neumann, who was a giant of modern science. And essentially when he was asked about possible applications of modern computers, I mean, at that time they call it modern computers, he just said, look, probably the real application that will come and will have an impact there will be something that we still do not imagine. And this is something very exciting. I mean, we see the potentialities, but I guess there will be much more than what we see now.
Okay, thanks, Professor. I would like to move to Kelly. We've heard of the quantum that will provide competitive advantage and benefits to many industries and countries. And also there will be some technology convergence when it comes to certain areas like quantum and AI. Could you elaborate on that one, and how can this help, you know, to have some exponential benefit?
Thanks
It's working.
Absolutely. So what we see is, so Sandbox AQ, the A is for AI and the Q is for quantum. So it's really a poster child of AI and quantum convergence. We heard from Professor Fazio about the future quantum computer and when we will achieve quantum advantage. But what I'd like to say is that we're already using quantum technologies today, immediately today, to obtain benefit from this convergence between AI and quantum. More specifically, if we think about quantum computing, what we see in the future is actually a hybrid infrastructure where you have some subroutines running on QPUs, quantum processing units, other on GPUs from NVIDIA, and other on CPUs, standard computer processing units. So there'll be a hybrid infrastructure, and we'll have applications and algorithms that run on them seamlessly, optimized for whatever runs best on quantum and whatever runs best on AI. Immediately nowadays, though, Sandbox AQ is bringing out new solutions which can run on today's classical infrastructures, so GPUs, but benefiting from quantum. So for example, we can take the structure of quantum chemistry. We know how molecules will bind. We know that in the pharmaceutical area, through our knowledge of quantum chemistry, we know which molecules, how proteins will be formed, how molecules will bind together, how they can target a specific receptor in the body to improve pharmaceuticals, to bring out 85% of drugs fail in stage 3 of the drug discovery process. This is a huge cost to mankind. So through using our knowledge of quantum chemistry, we actually have created large quantitative models that can improve on drug discovery for the pharmaceutical industry. And Sandbox recently, this week in fact, announced a partnership with the Kingdom of Bahrain for drug discovery, a $1 billion deal to, in the biotech area to speed up this drug discovery. We also have agreements with Aramco, for example, on new materials discovery, also using these large quantitative models, building on quantum chemistry, but running on classical processes to help offset the carbon footprint. And you can potentially use these large quantitative models for new materials discovery, new catalysts, building new alloys which are lighter for defense, for lighter planes and automobiles. So there are many applications that will be revolutionized by this combination of quantum and AI. If we take a tiny step back, there are also other quantum modalities like quantum sensors. These are sensors that pick up the tiniest variations in magnetic fields, among other things. And through using quantum sensors, with an overlay of machine learning or AI on top, you can actually have quantum navigation. So this is magnetic navigation, where in areas where GPS is being denied, in war zones, or in areas underwater, for example, as well, where there is no access to GPS coordinates, you can use magnetic navigation to fly as birds do or to swim as whales do. That is how they actually navigate underwater and above ground. You can use quantum sensors today already. We have tests in hospitals for magnetocardiography, which is much more sensitive, using magneto-quantum sensors with this AI overlay to measure heart arrhythmia and other potential heart defects. So you can already see in today's world that this combination of quantum and AI is providing powerful solutions.
Thank you very much, very insightful. I would like to move to the Arunima here, as you represent the global institutions, and would like to talk about trust framework. So what's the role of these global institutions like the WEF or ITU or ISO? What's the role they are building to ensure or to build a trust framework?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Is it? Yeah. So for organizations like the World Economic Forum that I represent, we have been enabling multi-stakeholder dialogues in quantum technologies as well, and also for several other frontier technologies. And we believe by bringing in the public, the private sector, and academia together, can we start shaping the development of a new transformative technology like quantum. So at the forum, we have launched the Quantum Economy Network, which is working on several initiatives to build such global governance frameworks similar to trust frameworks that can enable an equitable development of the quantum ecosystem. Several years, probably 3 to 4 years back, we had initiated what we call the quantum computing governance principles. This was co-designed by several stakeholders from all over the world. And the first set of principles, a shared set of principles, were released in Jan 2022, which actually guides the ecosystem on how you can go about responsibly developing and designing this technology. And there are several such initiatives that the forum has been running. We have also been looking at quantum security specifically, and there are such guiding principles and frameworks that have been co-designed by the ecosystem. We have the regulators, the financial sector, the banks, and the governments coming together to agree to a common shared set of principles based on which the frameworks and the transition pathways and roadmaps get developed. So there are quite a few such efforts in place already.
Interesting, thanks very much. I would like to move to the Saudi perspective, Saudi market perspective with Dr. Mohammed Filimban. I would like to know the internal or the Saudi building domestic quantum talent capabilities, if you could elaborate more on that one, and the role that emerging markets like Saudi Arabia is doing in that one.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to the this panel. So, as a response to your question, first I would like to just comment about the emerging market. I think what you mean by emerging market is these markets or countries that sort of joined the quantum game a little bit late. But when you look at the perspective or the timeline of quantum technologies, we are in 2025 celebrating 100 years of quantum, right? But it's only the past 1 or 2 decades that we started to see the realization of the quantum technologies. So when you look at the full timeline, I think we are just at the starting point. So I would say that emerging markets have still plenty of, I would say, opportunities to keep up in this marathon, not race, if you would like to call it. Yesterday we had an interesting discussion about in the quantum network meetings, and I think there was a consensus among all participants that talent development is the key toward not only not only scaling quantum, but also achieving the quantum advantage. And we realized this here in Saudi Arabia, and I can tell you a good number of initiatives, educational initiatives, whether it's from academic institutes or NGOs, like in the Quantum Computing Association. But probably I can speak of at my university, KFUPM. We started a couple of programs 5 years ago, and we have been graduating and to continue to graduate workforce that will be will lead the quantum market, at least locally. But tangent to that, I think tangent to talent, investment is also important. And we always think of investment as a multiplicative factor to the talent. When I say investment, at least in the academic sector, we talk about the infrastructure needed, whether it's research or education, needed to train and teach these or the next workforce in quantum. So yeah, I think the key word that or the takeaway message that probably a short answer to a short response to your answer is talent and infrastructure to train and teach these talent.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Now we are moving to the second round of our discussion, and I'll start with Arunima on. We'll talk about the governance here. Yeah. And always when we talk about modeling the governance, there are lots of struggles there. And we would like to hear from you the lessons learned that we can learn from AI and semiconducting governance model.
Right. So in fact, just kind of related to my first remarks, when we started this whole process of looking at what does even quantum governance mean, and so we did consult a lot of the experts who have been working on AI governance, semiconductors, etc. And the common agreement is that the most appropriate time to be considering the impact of any new technology is when the technology is in its design and development stage. And I think we are exactly at that point in quantum technologies and in time to be able to start looking at what the impact of this technology would mean for businesses and for society. So a few lessons learned has been that educating the stakeholders, especially we can start with the government stakeholders and making them aware of what the governance issues could be so that we can avoid some of the pitfalls that we have had in AI. Similarly, bringing in the business stakeholders into the discussion also ensures that the governance regimes that get put in place are actually workable, they are feasible, and they don't restrict innovation as well. And we could also be early in the game to really start with educating the public, make them a part of the public discourse as well, so that the public in general starts understanding what this technology would mean for society. So I think we are at the right point in time where we can get the right stakeholders in place and start the awareness process. At least that's the least that we can do to avoid some of the pitfalls that we have had with some of the other technologies.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks. Other topic is really like access or equity and access, which is very important topic. Being from UNESCO, and what would be the, how would these organizations and ensure that we have an open, equitable access to quantum computing?
So let me remind first that 2025 is the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology. And I stress the fact that it is science and technology. So it was chosen to be 2025 after 100 years from famous Heisenberg paper, but the word technology is put there also to remind us that, and this was explained very well in the proclamation of the International Year, that, as you said, this new technologies should not lead to a quantum divide, but rather to be inclusive and help society as a whole. Now, UNESCO is very actively participating to the framework and all the organization of the international year. ICDP, which is the institution where I work, which is a Category 1 UNESCO institute, feels that it is a fundamental mission just to avoid that also quantum technologies will create more division and distance between countries which are more technologically advanced compared to others. And so it is important to provide means to give access both to knowledge and to facilities. So I think it's really important to offer training programs, I think it was mentioned already, that will give the right knowledge in a possible vast way all around the world, and also give access to the current facilities or future facilities that unavoidably will not spread uniformly around the globe. There are already several initiatives. I mean, on the training side, for instance, our center is offering school essentially everywhere in the globe. There are very interesting initiatives that where, for instance, ICDP is also participating. I will just mention the Open Quantum Institute, which is based at CERN, and ICDP is a partner of the OQI, let's say with the mission of organizing hackathon, but also offering computer time to, let's say, less favored countries so that researchers can run their job there.
Thank you very much. This is from Global Perspective. I would like to hear from Dr. Mohammed about the inclusive opportunity within the Saudi market, please.
Absolutely. So I think Professor Faz, you mentioned about knowledge transfer. And I think Saudi Arabia has a competitive advantage due to its geographic location, connecting east with west. And I think that is an advantage to Saudi Arabia. And that facilitates collaboration. When I say collaboration, I mean knowledge transfer, exchange of talent. We always talk about localizing the technology in Saudi Arabia. So I think one important aspect is, or in quantum computing or quantum technology, is collaboration, whether at a research institute, between industry, but also between governments. One other aspect also I would like to highlight is achieving quantum advantage cannot happen without the strong infrastructure. Kelly mentioned about the hybrid infrastructure. We have to understand that quantum computing will not replace classical computing, but also we cannot achieve the quantum advantage without having access to strong compute infrastructure. And I think Saudi Arabia is doing great in terms of investment in building the national infrastructure in compute. We heard about the GPUs, data centers that is being built in Saudi Arabia, and I think this is an important factor to facilitate not only research in quantum computing and technology, but also providing an advantage to collaboration with institutes from all around the world.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Similarly, Kelly, when we talk about cybersecurity, quantum cryptography, I think this is a very important topic, and quantum Sandbox AQ has one full track on cybersecurity. We'd like to know where we stand right now in terms of gaps between what's needed to be done and the readiness that others have, and in terms of awareness, and what governments and other entities supposed to do to close that gap.
Thanks so much. I always have the joyful task of talking about the threats linked with quantum computing. So we've talked about some of the innovations and the benefits. The downside of quantum computing is that it will be able to attack today's widely used asymmetric cryptographic algorithms that underpin our trust infrastructure of today. Notably, there already exists a quantum algorithm called Shor's algorithm, which we know will be able to render vulnerable RSA and elliptic curve cryptography, which underpins today's trust infrastructure. They are just waiting for what we call a cryptographically relevant quantum computer. That will attack our authentication mechanisms and data confidentiality. Now, the world became aware of this and has been acting over the last decade. We have new algorithms called post-quantum cryptographic algorithms, PQC, that have come out that have been standardized by the National Institutes of Science and Technology, Standards and Technology in the US, in a global effort to bring out new quantum-safe algorithms. We have new technologies coming out, quantum cryptography, also quantum key distribution. So we have the solutions at hand. The recommendations, and this is some of the work that Sandbox AQ is doing, is providing cryptographic inventory. So the governments in the US and UK and Europe have actively recommended that all governments and industry do an asset inventory of their cryptographic assets to understand what data is critical and which cryptographic algorithms they're using to understand where the vulnerabilities will be. By 2030, they will have had to migrate to post-quantum cryptography for their critical assets, and by 2035 for all assets. So we have a very, very clear timeline of a very significant cryptographic migration that needs to take place. Now, what can the governments do to bring this huge feat off? If you think Y2K, this is an even greater challenge, let's put it that way. Certainly it's bringing together, I liked very much what Dr. Mohammed said. What we're talking here is collaboration. We need to have collaboration between policymakers in all countries on a global level, because this is something which will affect not just individual countries, but potentially entire regions. So we also need to be able to talk and communicate between regions. So we need to be able to use and understand each other's cryptographic encryption to be able to authenticate and talk to each other in a secure manner. The second area where we need collaboration is within the country between the government policymakers who need to drive awareness and adoption of these new quantum safe cryptographic algorithms and quantum safe methods. The regulators who will be regulating the different industries, whether that's critical national infrastructure like telecoms, finance, utilities, because all of these will be potentially attacked. And then finally, industry. And we believe that industry has a very, very strong role to play in working together with policymakers and regulators to bring out regulation and policies that are adaptive, proportionate, and technology neutral to be able to deal with the crypto agility requirements that have been specified. So every country and every industry will have to ensure that their cryptography is agile for the future, so it's secure by design, but also agile by design, so that they can manage new threats that come out in the future.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks all for your insight. Now we are moving to a very interesting topic, which is the global divide. And here we talk about policy. And I would raise a question, and please, everyone would answer it from his own perspective. The question is about who sets the standards and how the government and other frameworks would make sure that there is no digital fragmentation. What can be done? What's the feasible solution, be it globally or within Saudi Arabia? And we may start from left to
Sure.
the rest, please.
So this is again a topic that's very close to what we do at the World Economic Forum, and we have been exploring what does the quantum divide even look like. And our efforts have been to bring in all nations into the discussion, and so that every country can participate in the quantum economy. And we do run an initiative called the Quantum Economy Blueprint, and this was a framework that was released last year, where we have spoken to several countries who have stepped up and actually shared some of the approaches and strategies they have adopted to develop their national quantum ecosystems. And based on some of the best practices that came out of these discussions with leading governments in this space, we released the Quantum Economy Blueprint, a framework which looks at 9 key themes. Themes like how do you enable open innovation and commercialization, how do you enable access to the hardware infrastructure and the supply chain, how do you go about developing the workforce, etc. And we are encouraging countries to participate in this discussion and to also pilot this framework to be able to develop their own national quantum ecosystems. And our C4IR Center in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has been the first pilot partner of the Quantum Economy Blueprint. It is a top-down approach, I think, as Dr. Basma mentioned yesterday also in her remarks, in the opening remarks. The center has taken the leading role in developing and getting the ecosystem together in the kingdom, and to start thinking as to how can the kingdom start developing a quantum economy, and how can it leverage its potential to attain some of its national goals and priorities. So there are some of these means through which we can actually look at bringing in all the countries into this discussion.
Excellent, thank you. To you, Professor.
Well, I just want to very briefly emphasize one point which was already present in your answer. I think that this is a very important question, crucial question that needs all the players which are involved in the scene, from scientists to policymakers, industry, academia, to work together. And this is not all the time an easy task, because I'm talking from, as a scientist, common language is not always easy to find, and I think this is important that this type of decision are joint decision among all the important players in this field.
Thank you very much. To you, Kelly.
So I'd like to build on the theme that Arunima mentioned of the Quantum Economy Blueprint, where Sandbox AQ was lucky enough to co-author the report. We looked at the different themes from the risk analysis around privacy, the need to ensure data privacy, cybersecurity, but also open innovation and talent and capacity building. And I'd really particularly like to drill down on those 2 themes. On the open innovation side, I think it's absolutely critical that countries develop the possibility to bring innovation out of the universities and into applied innovation through startups and in large companies. That is critical. It's not just having the financing. I'm a venture partner at Amadeus Capital Partners in the UK, for example, where we fund quantum startups. But there's also then a very critical role about how these startups are then integrated into the broader economy. That leads to the second topic, which is talent building, upskilling and reskilling. We look often at talent building within schools and universities, but what is equally critical is to ensure that the existing workforce is upskilled. And I don't think we're doing a good job of that globally at the moment. We need to change our approach in organizations and become learning organizations. There needs to be upskilling, reskilling programs within the organizations themselves. A lot of the time, innovation happens in large organizations and in governments, but specifically large organization, through the acquisition of talent and learning from startups, also from PhDs. Having internship programs, we've seen this in UK banks, for example. The leading UK banks have internship programs where they bring in quantum PhDs into the organization and they expose them to the different areas of requirement in that organization. It can be building a risk model for quantum optimization for the bank. It can be trading optimization. It can be the different areas that are required that will both benefit from future quantum computing capabilities, but also that need to take into account today for the quantum threats around quantum cybersecurity. But it's really bringing that talent from the outside into the industries of today where we see the possibilities for upskilling and reskilling today's workforce.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yep.
To you, Doctor.
So just to follow up on great points that mentioned by my colleagues, I think we mentioned workforce development and access to hardware in the pilot study of the quantum blueprint. One thing, just one thing to add is probably one thing that we can do is probably Professor Vaz, you mentioned education of policymakers and decision makers. And this is very important to facilitate access to hardware globally. This is through, I like this keyword, science diplomacy. This is to navigate through whatever challenges that might come up because of the export control and so on. So education of policymakers is one key takeaway that I think the pilot study also mentioned very clearly.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now we are coming toward the last round, toward the end of the session. I would like everyone please to, if we have like one important step that either government or global institutions, companies or researchers supposed to do to achieve that, what would it be? Let's start from right this time.
So I keep my answer very short. Collaboration across boundaries.
Collaboration across. Thank you very much. To you, Kelly.
I'll build on that. Absolutely collaboration at the global level where it's needed, but I would also say compete. So every country should be competing for the talent, resources, skills, and hardware, because that is how we will also drive innovation within the country. So collaborate where needed, but compete where it's in the sovereign interest.
I like that. Yes, I like it too. Thank you very much. To you, Doctor.
So I will go for education and cooperation.
Education and cooperation. Interesting. Thank you very much. Arunima?
If I can give like a short 4-step process. So 1, quantum is real. 2, you need to start building readiness now. 3 would be hybrid platforms can really offer a low risk entry for most of you. And 4, security is really urgent. I think these are the 4 key messages that I would like to leave in this discussion. And related to these measures that we mentioned, we have several working groups for industries where we are trying to understand the applications of quantum, where we see real impact happening across the value chain. And the forum has been releasing several such frameworks for different industries to help decision makers. And this week we have released the Quantum for Advanced Manufacturing and Supply Chain report. You can access the report, the QR code is right there. It illustrates early case studies and also a phased integration roadmap so that decision makers can really move from an awareness phase to a deployment phase. And this is one of the 7 priority industries that the forum has been working on with experts from all over the world.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And this is a reminder to everyone to look into this report through scanning the barcode here and seeing that this is the Quantum for Advanced Manufacturing and Supply Chain. With that, I would like really to thank you all, our panelists, for such an insightful and forward-looking discussions. I believe we need always to look into, not only just for quantum computing, not only care about the competitive advantage, but it's very important to build trust and global trust in that regard. With that, I would like to thank you also all for being part of this discussion, and please join me in thanking our distinguished panelists once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Mr. Saadi and the distinguished speakers for an engaging discussion on how quantum innovation is redefining the foundations of trust and security in the intelligent age. We will take a brief 10-minute break and reconvene for the next session, The Brain Economy, Unlocking Human Potential in the Age of Cognitive Capital. We'll see you back here in 10 minutes. Building on the breakthroughs we just explored in quantum technologies, our next discussion shifts focus from computing power to human potential. How education, well-being, and neurodiversity are becoming the defining assets of modern economies. Our next session, titled The Brain Economy, Unlocking Human Potential in the Age of Cognitive Capital, explores how nations and organizations can cultivate cognitive skills, creativity, and emotional intelligence as resources of value and innovation. Please join me in welcoming our moderator to the stage, Ms. Meha Taiba, founder and chief executive officer of Ramman Corporate Wellness. Joining her, we have Sir Professor Edward Byron, president of King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. We also have Dr. Mahmoud Al-Yamani, sector head of health and well-being at NEOM. We have Hazeline Ahmed, founder of NeuroPower and deputy CEO of Institute of Neurodiversity and chair and founder of ION Singapore. Please join me in giving them a round of applause.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today talking about a very, very important topic. And, for decades, our nations have been competing over natural resources. And then we started to compete over data. And now we are competing over cognitive capital and what economists call the brain economy. It's how we collectively use our cognitive capacity to learn, to innovate, to adapt, and to think. Paradoxically, though, the brain diseases have shaped 15% of the global disease burden, which is at par to cardiovascular diseases. And also, it has costed the global economy around $5 trillion, capital T, dollars yearly, which is expected to triple by 2030. So there is an opportunity to probably shift this burden into a bonus through investing in brain resilience, brain reserve, and inclusive cognition. Today, we are joined by an esteemed panel, and together, collectively, they shape the ecosystem to making this happen, from education, research, futuristic healthcare, and neurodiversity systems. So, Sir Edward, I'd like to start with you. How does universities, research, and human AI collaboration contribute to building a brain economy? And perhaps you can shed some light on how KAUST is, through your research ecosystem, doing that for Saudi.
Thank you very much, Maya. I mean, of course, that is one of the crucial questions of the age. I just start by some very basic ideas. You know, universities are all about knowledge. They're about creating knowledge. They're about teaching knowledge. And they're about creating impact from knowledge. The change in our world through the relentless progression of new information technologies culminating in integrative AI is greater than any development since the printing press, and probably greater than the printing press. It's altering how humans think and how humans interact with their world. So universities, having knowledge as their commodity, are being profoundly affected and influenced. And we're just at the beginning of this journey, and nobody quite knows where it will end up. But what we do know is that our capacity to address problems is increasing exponentially. Now, if I just change tack completely, because you had a session on education yesterday, and I'm really interested through my leadership I've had in the past in the bionic ear area and things like that, about the brain mechanical interface around accessing new information routes, and we all know how profound that's going to be. But I'd like to just switch gear and just talk about brain health. It's not so long ago, 100 years ago, that average life expectancy throughout the world was about 40 years. And brain health wasn't such an issue then because people passed away with other things. But as the years went by and human lifespan expanded, there became a health life gap influenced by cardiac disease, by joint problems. Now, there have been huge progress in those areas over the years. And the residual health gap holding back society now is the brain health gap, the brain gap. And that relates increasingly as our population ages to neurodegenerative disease and dementia. So the massive increase in technological capacity is allowing multidisciplinary teams to develop, covering AI, neuroscience, clinical neurology and psychiatry, neurosurgery, sociology, the whole structure of society as a whole, to better address and understand this aging paradigm of healthy aging leading into neurodegenerative disease. And already we've seen really major advances in 3 or 4 areas. I only have time to list them, but firstly, greatly improved diagnosis at an early stage, the virtual neurologist, the virtual physician. And this is incredibly helpful because the key to neurodegenerative disorder is early diagnosis and prevention of progression rather than cure of established disease. The second great improvement is in our ability to design and develop new pharmaceuticals using all of the power of massive data and AI, and we're starting to see that. And then thirdly, our ability to monitor vast amounts of data from clinical cohorts going ahead that enable us to work out what works and what doesn't work. Just to finish, I'll just say that at the moment we're starting to get a pretty good idea about how to slow some brain illness. One, healthy lifestyle. 30% of dementia is microvascular. Weight, blood pressure, smoking, diabetes. Secondly, very early detection if you're prone to Alzheimer's, and we now have 2 really good monoclonal antibodies on the market that slow Alzheimer progression by dissolving plaques. We've got almost 140 new therapeutics under development at different stages, some attacking beta amyloid deposition, some neurofibrillary tangles, some addressing neuroinflammation, and some my old area. In my youth, I played a role in discovering mitochondrial failure in the aging process, some addressing bioenergetics in the aging brain. And it's absolutely certain that it's going to be a multifactorial approach with many different things, including cognitive therapy, in terms of addressing and slowing age-related dementia. Now, remember, if we can push out the mean age of onset from 80 to 85 or 88, we will reduce the incidence dramatically. Thank you.
Wow, that's fascinating. Thank you for the update. It's really promising. And maybe, Haslin, I'll move to you. In a sense, you know, we do want to shift this disease burden into an economic bonus. So perhaps you can talk to us about neurodiversity and inclusive cognition and how it can play a role in unleashing human talent, and maybe define a little bit what you mean by neurodiversity for the audience.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Masa al khair. Thank you so much for that early start, and I'm really honored to be here, to be sitting with all of you. I would like to start by addressing what you just said about thinking differently to unlock the brain economy through neurodiversity. Sameness scales, but it doesn't innovate. From schools to workplaces, we build systems for the average brain. Neuroscience proves that the average brain doesn't exist. Every mind is wired uniquely, with its own patterns for attention, memory, and creativity. Why does this matter to us? The Human Connectome project that I recently, Connectome project at the University of Sussex, shows no two brains are identical. Nature neuroscience finds that differences in working memory, attention, and pattern recognition strengthen problem solving and accelerate innovation. MIT research confirms that cognitively diverse teams outperforms homogeneous ones, especially under complexity and uncertainty. Neurodiverse minds aren't just different. They excel in rapid pattern recognition, non-linear thinking, deep focus, and adaptive problem solving, the very traits that emerging brain economy needs today. And we prize that. As economies shift from physical to cognitive capital, traits like creativity, resilience, consciousness and conscience, and human approach leadership. Human AI collaboration are now the drivers for growth. What is the cost of exclusion? This is real data. Up to 80 to 90% of neurodivergent adults face under or unemployment in many regions. By 2030, brain disorders are projected to cost the global economy $16 trillion. This is according to World Economic Forum 2024. The opportunity is immense. This is the flip side now. Companies with inclusive cultures are 6 times more likely to innovate and 8 times more likely to achieve better outcomes. This is according to Deloitte 2023. By designing systems that accommodate the full cognitive spectrum through flexible learning, workplace adaptation, and neuro-inclusive AI, we unlock untapped human potential. This is the takeaway. Innovation isn't about moving faster or louder. It's about moving smarter, to be agile, to be nimble, and to be skillful. So inclusively and humanely. Every brain accommodated is a mind activated. Every mind that we activate is a new frontier of growth. We must treat brain health, lifelong learning, and inclusive cognition as pillars of competitiveness. It is an asset. It is an economic intelligence. This is the future of intelligence, which will not be artificial. This will be inclusive, ethical, and profoundly human. So I have ADHD. I got diagnosed 2 years ago by King's College London, Institute of Psychology. IOPPN is Institute of Psychology, Psychotherapy, as well as Neuroscience. And my 3 children, they cover the broad spectrum. My son, who's 27, his name is Fahad, named after King Fahad. He was born in 1998 in Dubai. He has dyspraxia, dyslexia, autism, ADHD, and he has graduated from University of Edinburgh with first-class honors, best project, best student, top in class. He worked in Bloomberg London in data, and he's now on the board of Institute of Neurodiversity, Singapore.
Thank you so much for sharing part of your personal story as well, and it is a testament to how passionate you are about the topic. Maybe Dr. Mahmoud, I'll move to you, coming from the future, coming from NEOM, building a futuristic healthcare system. Perhaps we can get back into the concept of brain health, and Sir Edward did tap into the gap, the brain health gap. How is NEOM looking at brain health and its crucial role in prosperity of a city, prosperity of its people, and the well-being of its people?
Thanks, Maha. First of all, thank you very much for the kind invitation, and it's a pleasure and honor to be here. Let me pick on what Hazeline had started and what Professor Edward had talked about before I answer your question, if that's okay. Hazeline had talked about the individual brain. And we believe that every individual is completely different, not only in their brain, but also in all of their organs. And that the reaction of everybody to the environment, to the determinants of health, are not necessarily the same, maybe even more, maybe not even at all the same. In other words, you have identical twins, same genomics, living in the same environment, and you see two completely different individuals. I mean, from the first look, monozygotic twins look the same, but when you analyze them, when you analyze their intellect, their personalities, even their health data, they're different, which simply means that even though they look the same, they're different individuals. Now, I've used this to show you the magnitude of the people who are different. How different are we is amazingly astonishing. And this has led us to develop the N=1 health or population health strategy, which simply means that we look at every individual as his or her own population. From a physical well-being to a mental well-being to a brain productivity in health and well-being to a social well-being, environmental well-being. And we look at the individual from a 360 points of view, or 360 points around the individual, which means that we collect and gather data from the individual, starting from their genomics, epigenomics, to their behaviors, to the environment, to the consumption, the excretions, and the effect of the environment around the individual, to their education, to their workplace, to make sure that, first of all, we capture all relevant data, because what healthcare systems capture today is no more than 20% of the relevant health determinants. 80% are not being captured today in healthcare systems. We're trying to close that gap of the 80%, which simply means that we will be able to predict all types of diseases. And that takes me to Sir Edward's point of the early diagnosis, inventions in treatment, in follow-up. And the follow-up is in the form of data-driven follow-up rather than a transaction or an interaction. And what we're adding to that triad is an earlier layer of a recognition of a problem in the horizon before it happens. This is before early diagnosis. This is not about diagnosing that an individual has microvascular brain disease, so he is at risk of dementia. This is more of what are the risks of you getting dementia at 80 years when you are a newborn? How can we prevent that? Now that is a new dimension in healthcare that healthcare has never looked at. Healthcare has always tried to identify risks to diseases, but has never been able to identify the predisposition to disease in an individual or at an individual level. And we're only able to do that today because of Gen AI and agentic AI. This was not possible back in 2022. It is possible today, and unless we put the efforts together, we won't be able to do that. And back to your question, Maha, what is NEOM doing for this? If you know about the health in all policies, right? What we have is a special status of brain in all health policies. And so as much as there is health in every policy, health in the workplace policy, health in the home design policies, health in the city designs policies, health in any transactional policy that basically govern how people live in one environment, we are in the process of embedding brain health as part of every health policy. By doing that, we're doing two things. One is we're capturing data very early on to help us determine the risks of development of diseases way decades ahead of its development, but also help us identify those that continue to progress in the development phase and help pharmaceutical companies to develop the right treatments for them. We're working very closely with KAUST on the development of the digital platform that we're building together to try to untangle this multifactorial problem that causes all of these diseases, and hopefully we will get to a point where we vaccinate against diseases way before they happen. Imagine a vaccination against dementia and a vaccination against hypertension, diabetes, autism, ADHD, name it. And that vaccine doesn't necessarily have to be a physical vaccine, by the way. That vaccine could be a couple of sessions of cognitive therapy.
Beautiful. That's fascinating, and I really like how you touched on being more proactive and looking at preventative medicine rather than trying to solve after the problem happens. Sir Edward, maybe I'll get back to you since Dr. Mahmoud already started to talk about policy and we're shifting gear into policy. How do you see research and development in KAUST play a role in shaping policy or evidence-based policy to promote brain health and the brain economy?
Look, 2 or 3 points I'd like to make around that. Firstly, KAUST's key role in the kingdom is as a new discovery university. So a lot of the things we're taking forward are with partnerships. In this case with Hevolution, which is a huge asset the kingdom has in the healthy aging arena. Also with the health system generally. We have Prof. Ahmed Ghallouzi in the audience who's leading on a lot of these activities for us. Our key role within KAUST is to bring together some of the world's greatest AI scientists, and we're fortunate to have a number of the people who are among the top 10 in the world in this area in the kingdom at KAUST, with great neuroscientists, and we have a number of the greatest neuroscientists in the world at KAUST, again, in the same laboratories working together, and increasingly strong clinical and applied ties. So we have that multidisciplinary interaction of absolutely outstanding people who are at a level equaled only by a handful of places in the world, and it brings a huge asset to the kingdom. Look, the second thing is a little bit more long-standing, but it's the policy area, and I think the AI revolution will enable that to be advanced in a way that it hasn't been previously. Just taking things we know already, things that don't have to be discovered, and implementing them will reduce the incidence of brain disease very considerably. I'll just give you 2 examples, one of which will surprise you, one probably won't. So, microvascular disease, 30% of dementia. Main risk factor diabetes, main risk factor for diabetes, obesity. We now have very effective treatments for obesity, which are absolutely revolutionary and are the major new therapeutic developments of the last 10 years. You all know what they are. Secondly, that won't surprise you, this will surprise you. There is absolutely convincing evidence that sensory deafferentation through deafness in elderly people massively accelerates the rate of progression of dementia. That is curable. It's curable by a good hearing aid, and if that doesn't work, by a cochlear implant. Work out of Hopkins has shown that this is also game-changing in reducing the incidence of dementia. So there are things out there already that don't have to be discovered. We just have to work out who needs them and apply it properly that will get us a long way on this journey. Thank you.
So I just want to follow, is it an awareness issue or is it an access to resources issue?
It's in the main an awareness issue. The deafness is not an awareness issue. Anybody in the kingdom with deafness can get appropriate treatment. We have great cochlear implant clinics. We have great hearing aid technology. I don't think it is understood widely enough how multifaceted the delayed health complications of being overweight are. You know, these are simple little things that are in the main education because, of course, they can be dealt with.
Thank you, thank you. Hasleen, I'll go to you. You spoke about systems, education systems and workforce systems that actually embed perhaps different or inclusive cognitive profiles. Maybe you can shed some light on what kind of policies do we need in order to assure that potentially every single system does accommodate for that?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yasu Kalispera, Professor Andrea over there. The answer is in my hand. Fresh print, first round. I spent 5 years researching on neuroscience. I studied the whole biological structure of the brain with King's College London. We spent a year working on the roundtable, which we organized in Singapore. And now we've put together a white paper. And this is about designing cities for every mind, which I have the first 20 over here, which I would be happy to share. We gave print number 1 to Dr. Basma yesterday. My answer is designing neuro-inclusive cities. Now, why is this important? Designing cities for every mind is the case for neuro-inclusive design. Cities are engines of both potential stress and happiness. Modern urban environments, crowded streets, open plan offices, constant digital stimuli. These often push our brain beyond healthy threshold, straining attention, draining our energy, and widening our gaps, the gaps between those who can adapt and those who cannot. For neurodivergent individuals like me, autistic people, ADHD learners, and those with sensory processing differences, these challenges are amplified. Globally, 15 to 20% of people are neurodiverse. Yet, most urban and workplace spaces are not designed for us. I have ADHD, as I mentioned, and it was diagnosed. I lived with ADHD for 53 years. It has been a struggle. And the reason is because this world is not built for us. A lot needs to be done in terms to understand, as we mentioned earlier, the individual. So neurodesign addresses this by shaping in our environment that support cognitive health and also our emotional safety, restorative spaces, quiet zones, access to greenery, and predictable layouts will reduce cognitive overload, will lower our stress and foster belonging. Workplaces that integrate these principles have, as I mentioned, report to lower absenteeism, 10 to 15% higher productivity. Investing in neurohealth is not just humane, it's economically smart. Cities that prioritize brain-friendly infrastructure strengthen resilience, talent retention, and overall community well-being and cohesion. Neurosensory is important to address this when designing cities for the senses. It is the first layer of experience: sound, light, texture, and rhythm. This profoundly will affect how we navigate and engage these spaces. Overstimulation from signage to subway sounds, these can overwhelm anyone, more so those like me with heightened sensory sensitivity. So we need to balance the inputs, offering choices like dimmable lights, acoustic zoning, tactile wayfinding, and quiet micro spaces for thinking, for resting. This intervention improves our focus, reduce burnout, and enhance intelligence across the population. So global examples that has impact: Singapore Therapeutic Gardens, Changi Airport, the acoustic zoning, Cisco Pen 1 offices show that designing for neurodivergent people elevates outcomes for everybody. By embedding sensory balance into urban and workplace design, cities become environment where every mind can thrive. Now this would be the mind for the city. Society, and this is the mind of the country, of the nation. So what is the takeaway here? Inclusive neurodesign is not optional. It is absolutely critical. By designing for both neurohealth and neurosensory needs, we will unlock human potential. We strengthen communities. We build resilient, creative, and humane nations. I hope you agree.
Oh, definitely. It's like music to my ears what you're saying. And I think Dr. Mahmoud also mentioned that NEOM is becoming the catalyst for this, putting brain first policies. And, you know, I'm curious to know, Dr. Mahmoud, I know that maybe NEOM is incubating all of this, but if you had a magic wand and you would be able to change one policy in government overall for Saudi, what would it be to serve brain health?
That's a tough one, and I think, Maha, you're sparing the best for the worst. You spared the big question for the worst of your panelists. Can I, before answer that, go back to Sir Edward's point on deafness? The problem with deafness, blindness, sensory tactile problems, emotional isolation, ADHD, autism, and everything else that falls under the mental health issue is not identifying the acute problem and or intervening with it. It is actually the rehabilitation needed after that. And this is why the intervention by itself, as easy as it is not very effective. And one example of that is newborns with deafness that benefit from cochlear implants will not benefit from the procedure unless they have an intensive 2 years program of rehabilitation for them to learn how to use that hearing that they were not born with. And the same applies to vision, the same applies to everything else. So it's not only an intervention, but it's also what follows that intervention. On what Haslin talked about creating a cognitively inclusive and stimulating environment, that needs a top-down policy. And if there is one policy that I would put in place today, I would start the policy of brain capital index. As much as you have economic indices, as much as you have physical indices, as much as you have indices on satisfaction and happiness and this and that, we don't know today what is our brain index. Now, I mean, I'm not talking about Saudi Arabia, but the whole globe. Nobody knows, no country knows what is its global brain index. It could know about their, the number of educated people, the number of universities, but that is not brain capital index. What brain capital index is a measurement, doesn't exist today. That's a proposed policy that measures how many active brains do we have in the community? What are we missing? 1 out of 4 people has some element of ADHD. 1 out of 10 people have some element of autism. I mean, I'm talking about kids here, all the way to adults. 1 of 100 has early dementia. How many brains do we have physically that are not ready to work and that can be switched back to functional brains is what we don't know. So if there's one policy, it is the brain capital policy. As much as we know how much oil we have under the ground, as much as we know how many gold plates we have in the banks, we need to know how many active brains do we have and how many brains can we switch back to being activated. Further to what Haslin had talked about of setting the environment, setting the living place to tap on the brain diversity so that we can convert the 20% or less of dysfunctional brains because of the environment to highly functional brains. My last point is When somebody loses one sense or is short on one, they are way bigger in others. Blind people are much better at memorizing and listening. Deaf people are much better in their photographic memories. And that is what we should be tapping. That is where we should be. We should be converting the challenge into an opportunity.
Beautiful, doctor. And you're proposing this brain index, which is very, very innovative, very advanced, and I think it would add a lot to understanding the economy, not just from a GDP perspective, but also from a human perspective, which is crucial and important as we move forward with innovative technologies. Sir Edward, as a renowned neuroscientist, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this and what you think about this. And perhaps, is this something that KAUST is looking at working on? I know you're developing a data infrastructure that is very strong and powerful. So would we be able to look at a suggestion as Dr. Mahmoud is mentioning?
Yes, I think we can, with the number of people we have now across multiple fields who have relevant expertise, and the incredible asset of Shaheen 3, one of the world's greatest supercomputers. But I wanted to make a slightly different point, you know, for what worries me the most about this. 10 years ago, it was the tsunami of dementia, which was going to consume half of the world's health resources by 2050. I think we're on top of that now. I think with the measures already in place, the very multifaceted approaches underway for early detection and multiple therapeutic interventions, we'll get there with that. I'm less worried about that. What I'm worried about now much more is on the educational side and people's mental health with the AI revolution. Every week I attend a meeting with bankers, big business people, where they tell me they're about to let 30% of their workforce go. That's the first 30%. You go to the States and you see driverless cars all over the place. You know, how many jobs are going to be lost to the AI revolution very, very quickly? And it depends really how hard it's pushed. You know, if the sociological factors are ignored, the job loss over the next 10 years will be absolutely massive. And then the comments made by my colleague at the other end of the panel will be, what will the mental health of these people be like? What will they do? And what I don't see at the moment, where KAUST and other partners can help, is enough planning for this. You know, as these people move on and they become redundant and there are no jobs for them, what does society do with them? How do we give them fruitful and meaning lives? And that needs clinicians, it needs AI people, it needs sociologists, it needs psychologists, it needs incredible multidisciplinary thinking that isn't happening at the moment. And I think we can drive that collectively in the kingdom. I think we can make a big contribution there.
That's looking at jobs and the job gap that's going to happen because of AI. I think it's also very important to look at how AI and humans are going to collaborate and building that mental toughness that would allow them to survive and prosper with AI, not in separation of it. So I'd like to go to maybe Hazleen, and if you can tell us a little bit about how AI is leveraged for neurodiversity.
Neurotech, AI, and brain economy. That's my answer. So AI, neurotech, and cognitive tools. They are not replacing humans, but we amplify human potential. What is our goal? It's not empathy, it's outcomes. 1, better decision making. 2, adaptive organizations. And 3, resilient teams. So modern AI systems can optimize workflows, predict cognitive overload, and personalize learning. But only if they work with diverse teams, not against them. When organizations design for different type of cognitive brains, it's about trust, and adaptability will naturally follow. Like when women lead, peace follows. So companies that embrace neuro-inclusive AI and systems are 6 times more likely to innovate. And, as I said, 8 times more likely to achieve better outcomes. So neurodivergent teams using AI-supported workflows will see productivity gains of up to 30%. This is SAP Autism at Work program. Neurotech, from wearable EEG to cognitive training platforms, enable real-time adaptation. AI-driven task allocation will match individual cognitive peaks to high-focus work. Now, brain sensing tools will need to detect fatigue, prompting micro breaks, or we need to restore intervention. Adaptive learning platforms is important to tailor upskilling based on attention, memory, and processing different patterns. These are tools that can turn our different profiles, cognitive profile into intelligence. And it's not opticals. The next productivity revolution, it's not automation, it's activation. We need to activate untapped brain potential through emerging tech, frontier tech, assistive tech that is accessible, adaptable, affordable. So true leadership in the neurotech era. It means designing systems for cognitive diversity rather than forcing uniformity. We need and we must have psychological safety embedded within what we do to enable creativity under uncertainty, and using AI and neurotech responsibly to support and not standardize. Human decision-making is key. Organizations that integrate AI, neurotech, and neuro-inclusive design don't just survive disruption, we thrive in complexity and uncertainties. We need to be agile. So leaders, it's not about control. It's not about watching your team working 24/7 all the time. It's about letting them unlock their own minds. This is autonomy and free will. Now, it's important also to connect regions to unlock human potential. It's about collaboration, as you mentioned, not just across industries, but across the regions. Asia, APAC, MENA, the States, and Europe. We need to work together.
That's for sure, that's for sure. Dr. Mahmoud, maybe I'll shift gears to investment and ask you, how have you at NEOM collaborated perhaps with the private sector to enable brain health in NEOM?
Thanks, Ma. One of the areas we're focusing on is the evolution of brain-computer interface. And we're working with Paradromics, a startup on brain-computer interface that is the only competitor today to Neuralink. The idea behind this is basically using Connexus, which is the microchip, to translate brain signals into activities, whether these activities are voices through computers or movements through artificial limbs or the likes. The idea that is, and the difference between Paradromics and Neuralink is Paradromics focuses more on restoration of functions. Neuralink does that too as its early phase, but the ultimate target for Neuralink is symbiosis with AI. And so that's a far shot. That's more of a moonshot. The reason we chose to work with Paradromics is they are solving an existing problem and they're avoiding together collectively, we're avoiding the very undefined area of human brain and AI symbiosis, which in my humble opinion needs multi-layers to make sure that we are ready for that phase. And those are, one example is the Brain Capital Index. The second is robust governance on how do we deal with AI when it comes to the interaction between AI and humans. And the third is a protection mechanism after the governance, and then a development, and that protection mechanism is in the form of, say, a standing board for anything related to cognitive functions. And then and cognitive diversity and cognitive inclusion and all of that. And that's at the level of the country, at the level of the government. And then incentives and reward systems for tabulating on those. And so workplaces, schools, even homes that enhance this cognitive function, tapping on cognitive function, cognitive resilience, cognitive diversity, cognitive inclusion, get a reward and incentive system or incentive and reward system. And last but not least is an ongoing continuous revision to correct the path. So these are the layers that would secure the right developments. But going back to the brain-computer interface, we're not here to say we're gonna implant your phone in your head or have you move the airplane through a thought, which by the way could happen in a couple of decades or a few decades down the road. But the early phase is more of untapping the potential of people that have limitations through the brain-computer interface.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we talked about the Brain Capital Index. We talked about neurodiverse cities and systems. We talked about research and how it can help in bridging the, let's say, brain health gap that is already existing today. And we have a renowned neuroscientist, we have a neurosurgeon, we have a neurodiverse advocate. I think we can bring it home now since we're at the very end of our session, and maybe I'd like to hear from each of you just one advice for the audience to take care of their own brain health, something that perhaps you already as experts do for your own brain. Sir Edward, we'll start with you.
Keep fit, use your brain.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce this concept that was, have you heard of Dan Siegel? Professor Dan Siegel, he introduced Healthy Mind Platter. So people laugh when I mention Healthy Mind Platter. It's something that is seriously looked into. So Healthy Mind Platter is about understanding what your brain needs. So the way to remember is A, P, C, D, E, and F and S, okay? Attention. You need to score yourself, so you need to give yourself, in a day, time limited to attention. And we've got playtime. There's also C is connectivity. You need to be connected to people. D is downtime. You need to have downtime. And you need to have exercise. How many of you exercise in a day? It's daily. It's the daily routine. And then focus time. So downtime could be your time to meditate. Focus time is on yourself or whatever that you need focus on. And last and most important, who can tell me what's the S? Absolutely. Sleep. The optimal actually is not 8 hours, it's 7. So sleep is critical. So that's Dan Siegel's Healthy Mind Platter. Rate yourself out of the 7, 0 to 5. Try it. If you score under the average, you're not practicing Healthy Mind Platter. So we need to look after your brain, our brain, the same way we look after our gut.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Mahmoud?
As much as I like standardization, I think it's very difficult to standardize across everybody. And I think every individual should focus on what they are missing. And if you go back to the Siegel plate and identify where you're doing well and enhance that, and identify where you're not doing well and start training yourself on this. I'll give you a very quick example. You can be an introvert or an extrovert, right? And what that means is if you're an introvert, you produce more if you're alone, if you're isolated, if you're in a quiet place. If you're an extrovert, you can only work in the middle of a mall. Yet, if you're to lead a number of people, you can't be either. You can't be an extrovert because then you're wasting everybody else's time. And you can't be an introvert because people will not see you, and if your folks don't see you, then you're not there. And if you're at one end of the spectrum, you have to work your way towards the middle, and it applies on both ends of the spectrum. And the same thing applies to everything else in life. If you're a sleeper, then you need to come down on that. And if you're not sleeping well, you have to work on that. If you're a connections guy, if you're an extrovert, then you have to work on reducing that so you can do more of something else, like exercise, like the nothingness time,
That's
the
beautiful.
isolation.
That's an amazing time, nothingness.
The nothingness time is an extremely important thing that you need to do, and I challenge you to do it for more than 5 minutes. I mean, to start with, if you do it for a minute, you're doing very well. But then the minute you go to 5 minutes, you can see the reward of that. Do that once or twice a week. If you manage to get yourself to do the quote-unquote nothingness for 5 minutes every day, you will see the difference. And what that means is not just sitting there thinking about something. It is absolute nothingness. You lock yourself, you push away every idea that comes to mind, and decide to do that. And I'm sure you will think about
Seems
this.
we're going to end our session with a challenge from Dr. Mahmoud. I truly enjoyed this session. Thank you so much for all your time, your insight, your experience, and you left us with a lot of food for our brain to think. And thank you all. Thanks to the audience, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Taiba, and our distinguished speakers for highlighting how human development and well-being are central in the intelligent age. We now arrive at our final discussion titled Agentic and Embodied AI, Redefining Interaction, Mobility, and Labor. As artificial intelligence evolves from predictive tools to autonomous embodied systems, its impact on industry, work, and human collaboration is becoming transformative. This session explores how intelligent agents are reshaping mobility, augmenting human capability, and redefining the future of labor in the intelligent age. We're honored to welcome our panelists. First is Mr. Mish'al Al-Mishari, Director of Corporate Venturing at Aramco Ventures. We also have Dr. Abdurrahman Habib, Center Director, International Center for AI Research and Ethics. We also have Professor Umayma Bamasak, Deputy of Transport Enablement and Transport General Authority. We also have Dr. Mazen Malibari, Founder and Chief Executive Officer at Deep SA. Moderating this session is Mr. Karen Soni, the Associate Partner at McKinsey & Company. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage with a warm round of applause.
Hello, good afternoon. I hope all of you are doing well. Welcome to our panel on agentic and embodied AI. It's my pleasure to be hosting this panel with three very unique vantage points from the industry. My name is Karan Soni. I'm an associate partner with Quantum Black AI by McKinsey. I work with clients on helping them identify and define what their AI journey and transformation should look like and what new growth horizons they can tap on with AI. And for the last 3 years, my life has very much centered around generative and agentic AI. While much of that conversation has centered around IT applications of agentic AI, I think there's a lot of opportunity from agentic AI in the OT context as well, especially in a country like Saudi Arabia, which is significantly investing in areas like logistics, manufacturing, and operations capabilities to enable the broader Vision 2030. With me, I have Mishal Al-Mashri, Director of Late Stage Investments from Aramco Ventures. I also have Professor Omema, who's the deputy sorry, my apologies. Dr. Omema is the Deputy of Transport Enablement at the Transport General Authority. And then we have Dr. Mazen Malibari. Mazen is the Chief AI Officer and Partner at TAM and also the co-founder at Deep.SA. Before I get started, I just want to very quickly invite all of you to give a broader introduction to yourselves so the audiences know who are going to be speaking to them today. Mishal?
Good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations to CACST and to the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution on a successful event. My name is Mishal Al-Mashari. I have been with Aramco for 25 years, and mainly in digital, IT, investments, and recently more into venturing. So all these advancements that we're seeing today in AI and in technology have been something that I grew up with throughout my career, and very exciting moments to really see the whole nation and the whole industries kind of jumping into this wagon. And very privileged to be part of this panel.
Professor Omema?
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Good afternoon. I am Omema Bamasag, Professor of Cybersecurity and also the Deputy of Transportation Enablement at TGA. Similar to Mr. Mishal, I have almost 25 years plus experience ranging from academia to the government. Transport General Authority is the authority that is responsible for regulating land, maritime, and railway. And the Deputy of Transportation Enablement, which I'm leading, is responsible for enabling the transportation in the new mobility, investment, and competition protection, research and studies, and also Saudization and capacity building. We are really thriving to move forward to achieving the goals of 2030 of diversifying and enabling transportation and move toward the smart cities in the future.
طيب السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thanks for having us. And والله نفسي تميل إني أتكلم معكم بالعربية لكن يعني احتراما للست اب I'm gonna speak in English. Mazen Malibari. I think I'm a very interesting mix of academia, industry, and an entrepreneur. Spent almost 16 years in academia, then now it's been 12 years in industry and entrepreneurship. Before that, I started at a very early age as a software engineer when I was 7 years old. My first neural network, the first neural network that I coded was around 1999, actually. So I think I have some very interesting insights to add and perspectives to this panel. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for the three of you for being here. Before I get started, I just want to quickly see a raise of hands. How many of you are familiar with agentic AI? Amazing. I see a few hands. And anybody worried about what agentic AI means for the labor markets and the workforce? I see even more hands than those who said they understand agentic AI. So that's definitely something that perhaps we should start with. I think agentic AI as a concept, while appears to be very new in all of our vocabularies, is a technology application that has been around for a while. And before I get this conversation started, I just want to hear from the three of you how you see agentic AI in the context of what you do or technology application. Perhaps, Mishal, we start with you and then we go down the row.
Sure, absolutely. So agentic AI and AI in general is no stranger to Aramco. We have been digesting data for many, many decades, and AI breeds on this data. However, what we're not in a hurry towards is a race of full autonomy. And I think part of what agentic AI intends to do is have the AI autonomously not only respond to a prompt, but also do actions completely on its own. And for mission critical operations such as Aramco, we wouldn't want to jump into that without assuring that the autonomous AI knows what it's doing, does not get into hallucinations, which is something we cannot afford in our operations.
Thank you. Professor Mema?
First of all, before starting, I'd like, probably forgot to thank Karen for arranging such, or setting up such a wonderful panel, and for the Fourth Industrial Revolution Center to set up this amazing forum. Agentic AI for the Transportation General Authority, it is not only a software development. It is about the next move or the next era where the agentic AI is considered as a self-governing entity. And if we consider agentic AI in transportation, and especially in autonomous mobility, it is able of autonomous decision making to identify the routes, and also defining also the possible leeways and execution, and the deployment, and even identifying the alternative routes and real-time decision making on the deployment. So it is not that we only accumulate the data and make a decision out of them. It is way beyond, goes to the planning, reducing the human errors, providing a seamless experience for the passengers.
Mazen, perhaps you've already built your agentic AI system. So
Actually, so
perhaps
many of them. We have like an army of agents right now. So, yeah, I like what the panelists here just mentioned about agentic AI. We are talking about a very interesting keyword that we haven't seen that much in technology yet, which is autonomy. It's not about intelligence, actually. Intelligence is one characteristic of agentic AI, but autonomy is the keyword of this whole new era of AI. I'm going to give you an analogy. You are very well familiar with agentic AI, but just imagine a world where you send a voice message to one of your colleagues, and he will do everything to get that task done. In that setup, you are talking about autonomy and intelligence together. We are talking about a world where you send some kind of prompt to an agent, to an AI, and because that AI has full autonomy, he will be able to do all of these tasks. So autonomy is way more important in the next era than, actually intelligence is the core thing, but autonomy is the one that is going to unlock all of these potentials. So yeah, this is where we are seeing the world next.
Now, Michal, you know, I've had the opportunity to serve Aramco at various points in time while serving clients here in Saudi Arabia. And I think the one thing that's always stuck out to me is, you know, despite being such a large and complex organization, Aramco is not risk averse to technology, right? In early 2023, I remember when everybody was just kind of starting to familiarize themselves with GenAI, for example, Aramco teams had already trained MetaBrain, right? Your own internal LLM trained on Aramco data to basically bring efficiency to a lot of support functions across the organization. Now, you know, I heard you just say you're in no hurry to kind of implement agentic AI, and I think that is very understandable from a complexity standpoint at Aramco. But going beyond IT application, right? How are you kind of broadly thinking about OT application in both upstream and downstream, given there's a lot of opportunity, both in terms of revenue generation and especially cost savings, right? And even things like safety, which is of paramount importance to anything that Aramco does in an operational environment. So I think if you could just kind of help us kind of walk us through how you're thinking about it, how Aramco is thinking about it, that'd be very interesting.
Sure. And to your point, I mean, when the MetaBrain was launched almost 2 years ago, we approached it in a very safe and secure manner. The intent isn't to use a cloud-provided general LLM and have all the confidential data out in the wild. So for that reason, we had to build something in-house that reads from our internal data and provides more relevant information to Aramco. So we fed it with the general data initially, and then established some verticals on top of that are specialized in various domains. And depending on the vertical and depending on the maturity of that specific vertical, we would go into the agentic and the more autonomy, such as in our drilling and autonomous operations and autonomous drilling. In our supply chain, we've also are looking into agentic AI to kind of automate some of the human activities in a more hands-off and autonomous operations. Also, our global optimizer is also looking into agentic AI to be part of the elements of it. But just a few weeks ago, I was at the Amazon fulfillment center, their largest fulfillment center in Houston. And as much as I saw autonomous robots and agentic AI being adopted in so many places, and this is Amazon, this is a technology company, perhaps the inventor of the cloud, but we also saw lots of humans doing work, and the reason for that is there are still some skills that you need humans for. Humans can be more easily scaled up and scaled down when it's season, and that resembles a lot to also our operations. But when it comes to the facilities, when it comes to the safety of the individuals, the repetitive, routine, hazardous tasks, we do like to automate those as much as possible, but without jeopardizing our main goal, which is to be a reliable provider of energy. So as long as that can come without affecting our main mission, then we would still need the human intervention to be part of it. And it's not because of the lack of the ability. I mean, the facilities have sensors, there's remote operations, there's remote control, and I think it's almost ready just to switch on the autonomous and have it completely operate on its own. But it's consciously avoiding to give that up and risking, if God forbids, some outages or interruptions of operations in such a critical operation that Aramco does.
Thank you, Michelle. Now, Professor Umaima, we had the chance to speak before this panel a little bit, and you were talking about a very exciting initiative that you are currently spearheading in the form of the Sandbox that is going to launch autonomous taxis in Riyadh. Perhaps you could also enlighten the audience a little bit about what you're doing and how agentic AI plays a crucial part in getting to do that in Riyadh.
Yeah, of course, of course. Let me take you back, Karen and the audiences, 3 years ago, when TGA started the initiative of enabling smart mobility and autonomous mobility specifically. So we started with a strategy of having two main streams. The first one is to establish a framework with the government stakeholders, identifying the requirement that has to be taken and approved by each stakeholder to enable the technology. For example, we have a pillar for the insurance companies, another one for the traffic department, and another one for the data and cybersecurity, and the last one is for the transportation regulation. Once we have established that framework, we worked in line with conducting few pilots. The pilot's reason is that we need to prove the concept of the technology to see if it works in Saudi Arabia with our environment, with our temperature, with the user acceptance as well. So we ran 2 pilots with autonomous shuttle, one in King Saud University, and it was really a great success with, the youth that really like to try the new technologies and to jump into the shuttle where there is no driver. There is a control officer, but there is, the shuttle was with no steering wheels. And the pilot was almost for 6 months. And it was very successful in terms of no incidents and with the high number of students taking it. The second one was autonomous shuttle at Roshan Front, and it was for a good certain, probably I think 3 to 4 months. The third one, which is a bit on the other side of the transportation, which is the food delivery. We conducted an autonomous food delivery in Hajj season 2 years ago between Jahiz and Al Baik. And all these pilots gave us the indicators that no, we are ready, technology is ready, and we have to move on to go out from the fenced environment to the real world with the real traffic and to try the autonomous cars. And this time where we launched the robotaxi 3 months ago, which was last by the end of July 2025. That, I believe, marked a cornerstone in the smart mobility or the autonomous mobility in the kingdom, where a coalition has been done between WeRide as a technology provider, Uber as a platform provider for the rides, and also AI drivers as the national or the Saudi operator. So the pilot itself, there are 4 or 5 stages that we have gone through. The first one is the sandbox that Karen just mentioned. For TGA to be a technology enabler, we have to establish a safe environment for the technology providers or the businesses that is not licensed by TGA or by the government to have a safe environment to work and for us to solve all the challenges and then to license the company or the business model to work in a commercial sense or commercial set. So we established a sandbox for autonomous mobility. The second phase was to establish the strategic partnership with WeRide, Uber, and AI Driver. The third phase was to deploy safely the technology, where we chose the area in Roshan Front, Roshan Business Gate, and Princess Noor University for our first pilot for the autonomous taxi. Technical assessment has been done for that route, and it is up to the standard of the company and of TGA and the sandbox. And we have run the cars between all these routes for the past 3 months, and we have reached almost 1,000 plus riders till now. An expansion plan is going on now to expand the routes to several areas in Riyadh and also in Jeddah. The fourth stage is for the decision making. So now we are accumulating all the data from the trips, analyze them, and see where we go from there, having in mind that cars have safety officers, because we need to monitor to provide a safe experience for riders and to have the driverless experience coming once our KPIs has been established. So with all this ecosystem in place, we are trying to build the trust, build the value chain, and inviting more players. And we have been in discussion with several companies that are interested to come and to expand the AV ecosystem in the kingdom.
Oh, very interesting. I'm sure everybody here is very excited if this can solve
and please
the traffic
try
situation a little
yes,
bit.
it is available through Uber application at Roshan and at Princess Noor University, and it's free of charge. But you have to be there within the geofenced location. Order the taxi and it will come to you to pick you up and to drop you off at the designated area.
Very exciting. You know, on the way over here, my Kareem driver was watching TikTok while driving me over, so I very much look forward to a robo driver that doesn't do that. Now, Mazen, if I were to come to you, I think we heard very distinct vantage points, right? One, a private company, another, a government department, kind of enabling agentic AI, both with the resources to be able to do that. But given your role as a service provider of AI, how are executives talking to you about agentic AI? What is their understanding of the concept? What do you think adoption on ground is looking like today? And where do you think agentic implementation in KSA is headed at the moment?
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting question. Let's put things into perspective and draw the right context of what is happening right now. Let's go back 10 years ago, 2015-16. I do remember that I was in a panel like this one, and I was talking about AI. Pretty much everyone, including me, while we were talking about AI, it looked like an alien for us. We haven't seen AI yet. We have been hearing about AI. Alan Turing published the first paper about AI in 1945. We're talking about almost 80 years. Up until 3-4 years ago, we haven't seen the real AI. So pretty much everyone, every executive, every decision maker was talking about AI as something that is going to happen sometime in the far future. We know that it's going to have some impact in the world, but we have no clue how that impact is going to be or how the AI will look like. Moving forward, November 2022, OpenAI, a company by then was almost 10 years old. They started in 2025, if I'm not mistaken, 2015. They announced GPT-3. It was an important, shocking moment for the whole industry. The whole AI researchers were astonished. Industry was in shock. Everyone was not expecting this to happen at that moment. We were still waiting for this to happen maybe 5-6 years later, but not at that moment. Right after that moment, everything changed. Now, the way how executives, decision makers are talking about AI is completely different. In the first 8 months, right after that moment, we start to see the push of where the executives, decision makers are trying to understand what is happening. Right after that, they start to push of how to use AI inside our corporates. This year, it's a completely different landscape. They are asking for 20% saving in the cost using AI. They are trying to use full AI capabilities and push the boundaries of how to utilize every single bit of AI capabilities within their organization. So let's just imagine how next year is going to be and the year after. This is, to me at least, is a very utopian future, or the starting of a very utopian future. So hopefully the future is going to be very bright with AI.
Indeed. And speaking of executives and how we think, Michelle, I can't think of anybody better to answer this question. I think most organizations that I work with, whether they are in the public sector or in the private sector, the one common challenge is, we've piloted something, but we haven't been able to scale it. And I think that's starting to frustrate executives as much as they're excited about what's happening in the broader technology ecosystem. Now you've played many different executive roles at Aramco, which center around technology. From your point of view, as somebody who's actually successfully scaled many pilots into scalable use cases and large-scale implementations, what do you think, are the 3 or 4 distilled lessons that you'd like to share with the audience?
Sure. And actually, that is probably one of the #1 reasons of digital transformation programs not succeeding and failing. It's the lack of scale. Solutions are stuck in POC mode for too long, and they don't get beyond that point. And what we've done, and we started and we've evolved a lot in this, before deploying a solution, there has to be a value. So it's not agentic AI for the sake of agentic AI. It has to be a very well-defined business solution. So it's a business problem that we solve for. We don't bring a solution and then look for a problem to apply it to. Second thing is we identify the value way before deploying it. So we've introduced something what we call TRV, Technology Realized Value. And what that does, before identifying a solution, before deploying it, we project what is the TRV. And to find out that we were accurate, after the deployment is done, we do a post-deployment TRV review. So after we deploy, we check and validate what was the true realized value of that deployment. And we don't just stop at that point. We have a third-party assessor that comes and validates and certifies that this is truly the realized value. And that goes into Aramco's annual report. So if it's not value generating, then we don't pursue it from the beginning. So no technology for the sake of technology. Now, when we find something with positive realized value, we ask ourselves the question, where else does this apply? Who else can benefit this, whether it's from the Aramco company or from the Aramco group? And we've introduced what we call the Scalability Index, and that takes the deployments with the highest TRV and has the highest potential, and now goes and consciously has targeted campaigns towards those business units, telling them that this is not a sales pitch, this is something that an organization within the company has actual realized benefits in, and it's an opportunity to expand and deploy it in other organizations. We also consider having these deployments commercialized through our digital affiliates, the Aramco Digital, Context, Next Era, Sibrani. So they can take it to the group. So they'll provide the services to the Aramco group, but also provide some of these good practices beyond the group. And maybe one thing I'd like to add to that, innovation, in my view, has an organic methodology, and that's where our R&D centers across the world put their minds together and try to innovate. But also investments into startups is perhaps the inorganic methodology to get into advanced domains. And also we apply this same concept of realized value, of deployments, of startups that we've invested in, and scale up of those startups to the group. So it applies to both organic and inorganic developments.
Thank you, Michelle. I think you mentioned, Aramco has Aramco Digital, Context, and I think it's a very fortuitous position to be in when your company can basically address the entire stack of foundational enablers required to scale digital solutions. Perhaps if I go to Professor Meima and Mazen, from a broader ecosystem perspective, I'd like to get both of your thoughts on what do you think are some of the infrastructure enablers that are required in the ecosystem for something like agentic AI to be implemented at scale, right? When I speak with clients, there's often concerns around data privacy. Where will we keep our data? Where will compute happen? There's not enough compute in the kingdom that is sovereign in nature, for example. Or even, slightly kind of softer end of the spectrum, talent is sometimes a challenge, organizationally speaking. So I'd love for the two of you to kind of bring in your thoughts here.
Yes, Karen, you basically touched up on the point that is of great importance to enable and to scale up the technology. We can see it as three main pillars to enable AV or agentic AI in autonomous mobility. The first one, I would say, it's the brain, where we should take care of or enable very strong and solid communication, a high level of network, low latencies, 5G, 6G, also connectivity, vehicle to everything, and also the data centers, the AI models, the capacity to run the huge amount of data that will be generated from the autonomous cars to the cloud, and then to analyze them, and then to generate the models and to bring them to the cars, and vice versa. And this cycle will go on. And if you consider the number of scales of the cars or the mobility itself, it's not only the cars. So we need really to have this all interconnectivity in place. The second pillar is the body, where we talk about the infrastructure to provide a very up-to-date infrastructure in terms of smart traffic lights, sensors that would help to deploy the technology. The third one is the governance and the human factor, which you just mentioned about the talent. So for the governance, we have to make sure that the governance and regulations are in place, because if a mistake happen or an error happen with AI, it will affect processes. But if an agentic AI's issue happened in autonomous mobility, lives are affected. So we have to make sure that liability, eligibility are in place. And also the talent, build the human capacity that will run and that will manage and to make it real or effective in terms of running the technology and maintenance, operators, even instructors. And this is probably one of the challenges that we're facing now for the safety officers, that in the car we don't have enough trainees to train the safety officers to manage and to run the fleet. So all these kind of considerations and demands has to be there to scale up the technology.
Thank you, Mazen.
So let me shed some light on a trend that happened this year. Up until the beginning of 2025, most of the generative AI models used to be huge models. We are talking hundreds of billions of parameters. For example, DeepSeek, the biggest one, is around 600 billion parameter. Running a model like this one at scale is a highly challenging problem, even if you have the proper infrastructure. That is not going to be easy. But somewhere within this year, an interesting shift happened where engineers start to take over scientists and researchers, and they start to apply engineering mindset and capabilities to design these kind of models. And we start to see a huge shift. One of them is the one that caused a huge decrease in NVIDIA's stock price, when DeepSeek announced that they have the models and they managed to train the models in much smaller infrastructure. So what we have seen right now, or within this year, is that now there are highly capable models, but they are very small. We are talking about 7 billion parameter which is a model that you can actually run on your mobile. So if you have that model and you can run it to your mobile, just imagine how difficult it would be, or how easy it would be to scale that to hundreds of thousands of users. So this is an interesting shift, and this is going to continue just because pretty much not all applications need that kind of very huge capabilities and models. No, most of the applications need these small specialized model, and this is where we are going to see. One more thing that we can project and extrapolate from here to what is going to happen next year in the kingdom. We already hear the news about Human data center. I think they are planning to have 50 megawatt data center by the end of next year, and they also announced the 6 gigawatt project, the huge giga project. That's interesting. We have AWS that is going to be launched sometime next year. We have Google and Context, thank you for all the services that you are providing for the community, and Oracle as well. So I think it's just a matter of a couple of months and we will have the proper infrastructure. When it comes to talent, believe me, I'm super amazed with what I'm seeing right now. If you asked me a couple of months ago, I would say that we have a shortage in talent, but right now, because of Deep Data SA, I'm interviewing a lot of the Saudi talents in AI, and I'm super amazed just because all the initiatives that started a couple of years ago by Chaos, by Sedaya, by Sky, by all of these companies, Aramco as well, now we are seeing the results of all of these activities. There is a huge pool of highly talented AI engineers available in the market. They are looking for the right challenge to be part of. So it's an amazing landscape. And I think next year we should have a panel like this one and try to see how the progression is.
Yeah, we should just take a stock of what we thought this year versus next year.
Yeah.
I think we are close to time, but perhaps before we wrap up, rapid fire for all three of you. What is the one thing you're most excited for within the agentic AI sphere, and the one thing that worries you? We can just go down the row.
I think I'm excited a lot about the pace of the technology advancements. We've seen technology advance in the past, but never at this pace. And it's almost on a monthly basis where there's like a big breakthrough that's happening. And it's really exciting moments. And what excites me even more is that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is in the center of attraction. So many events happening right now at the same time in Riyadh. This is just remarkable. Just a few years ago, no one could imagine something like this. We have CEOs of mega technology organizations and other organizations in Riyadh attending these conferences. So I'm very delighted and happy and proud as a Saudi national that we are no longer adopters of technology, and early adopters was best case scenario in the past, but we are competing, and competing does take bravery, and Vision 2030 has set for all of us the North Star, and we will make some mistakes, we'll learn from them, we'll get up, we'll continue, we'll progress. But it's really proud that we're making some advancements on the global scale from a technology perspective. And I think it's time for all of the organizations to team up and to contribute to this national agenda.
Indeed. Professor Momema, what are you most excited for?
Sure. Just to complement Mr. Mishal's closing remark or the excitement, we are all sharing the same excitement of seeing the kingdom leading the forefront of the technology, not only regional but global. And we soon reach the time that we will not be the user of the technology anymore. We will be the producer of the technology. And the phase that we are working toward is phenomenal. But the companies that we are working with in autonomous mobility told us that it takes them a year to 2 years for the technology to be available for the users. In Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, it took them only 3 months. And this wouldn't have been happened without a strong belief from the leadership and a strong commitment from the government and the private sector to realize this vision. For the near future, we are not talking about a bunch of autonomous cars. We will be talking about an AI agentic framework for transportation, where we will be integrating autonomous cars, drone deliveries, high-speed railways, smart ports, all together to provide an unprecedented efficiency in transportation, and it will cascade through all the sectors in the kingdom.
Very nice. Mazen?
Yeah, next year is going to be a very important year in the AI landscape, just because we are going to see whether we are going to continue the exponential growth of AI. So are we going to double up the capabilities and the capacities of AI by next year or not? Are we hitting the wall? So by next year, if we continue to let's say GPT-6 and Gemini, the new version is going to be doubling what we have right now, or at least 30% of the current capabilities. That is going to be an amazing news for the whole AI industry. If not, that might indicate some plateauing in the industry, and we will see some interesting dynamics between the VCs and the investment that happened right now. So this is what I'm excited to see, the basic future of AI. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle, Professor Mema, Dr. Mazen. I think we've already set a date for next year, so we will come back and see what's happening. But until then, if you could please give a round of applause for the 3 panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Soni, and our distinguished speakers for this forward-looking conversation on how AI is transforming industries, mobility systems, and human-machine collaboration. This brings us to our final segment of the 3rd Saudi Forum for the 4th Industrial Revolution 2025. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, as we conclude, we reflect on 2 days of exceptional dialogue that showcased how convergence is redefining industries, economies, and societies for a more intelligent and inclusive future. To deliver the closing remarks, please join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Raneem Salemi, Deputy Manager Director for the Center of the 4th Industrial Revolution, Saudi Arabia. Please join me in giving her a round of applause.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we bring the 3rd Saudi Forum for the 4th Industrial Revolution to a close, let us reflect on what has unfolded over the past days. When we began the forum, our goal was to explore new ideas and how human intelligence combined with artificial intelligence can co-create. This has prompted me to question, what does it mean to view technology as a partner? Over the past 2 days, we put convergence at the center of our discussions and looked at what it means to regard technology as a partner in the intelligent age. While AI, for instance, does not have our human vulnerability or empathy, the focus of our partnerships with technology, like other relations, must be built on trust and responsibility. In the past 2 days, we focused on 6 thematic pillars: the intelligent economy, beyond digital, the future of industry, future-proofing society, strategic resources for 4IR economy, and responsible technology and ethical frontiers. Though we often hear about the rapid pace of change in the 4th Industrial Revolution, these sessions had made a clear leadership that made it clear that leadership today isn't measured by speed alone, but by how thoughtfully and responsibly we move forward. While the benefits of convergence are clear, the real question remains: as technologies converge, how do we ensure that the process is guided by trust and inclusion and foresight? Over the course of the forum, 3 anchors have emerged. First, the governance in the age of intelligence. Innovation without foresight risks fragmentation, but responsible innovation builds trust and creates a lasting impact. Second, human capability and education. Even as algorithms define new frontiers, human potential remains our greatest strength. Education must shape not only skills, but values, empathy, adaptability, and curiosity, so that people can really make a difference. Third, collaboration across frontiers. While breakthroughs happen through academia, government, and industry coming together to co-create solutions, the partnerships launched at the forum offer a glimpse of what is possible when diverse sectors come together. These anchors have done more than reflect our national vision. They have catalyzed a global conversation as responsible innovation, human capability, and cross-sector partnership in the intelligent age. Looking ahead, in the coming year, as we continue this journey, we must hold ourselves to the principle that have guided our conversations. First, to design systems that empower people, not replace them. To ensure that progress in compute and data translates into progress into equity and opportunity. And third, to remind ourselves in every innovation of the moral and societal questions that must accompany the technical ones. If there is one message that unites our voices here and heard across these halls, is that the intelligence, whether human, artificial, or hybrid, must always serve humanity. And so, the real measure of the forum's success will be in the actions taken, the partnerships formed, and the frameworks refined, and the inspired mindsets. I would like to extend my gratitude to our partners, the World Economic Forum, CAXT, and as well as our sponsors, Saudi Aramco, STC, NIDLIB, Riyadh Municipality, Quantinium, Al Asila, and Aleph, whose collaboration has made this gathering an example of what responsible innovation can achieve. I would also like to express my appreciation to every speaker, moderator, and participant who contributed to these discussions. And my sincere thanks to the entire C4IR Saudi Arabia team, whose dedication, creativity, and hard work made this forum a success. Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude this year's edition, let us move forward with the belief that the next frontier of progress will not be driven by machines alone, but by human wisdom guiding us towards a responsible development. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Raneem, for those thoughtful closing words. We extend our gratitude to your excellencies, speakers, and moderators, and guests for their meaningful contributions and participation. Your insights and collaboration are what makes the forum a cornerstone for shaping responsible innovation and advancing the kingdom's leadership in the fourth industrial revolution. As we officially close the forum, we invite all our guests to join for the networking lunch, and we wish you a pleasant afternoon. We look forward to seeing you in the future C4IR Saudi Arabia events.